That's right, we chose to do another Hideki Kamiya game. Thanks for listening to the Unlockable podcast, where today we're covering none other than 2006's Okami, developed by some very passionate individuals over at Clover Studio and published by Capcom. Hannah and I played the game to completion and both really enjoyed it, and now we're here to talk about it. Story, gameplay, legacy, and more. Give us a good rating on your podcast platform of choice, and let's go. Welcome into the Unlockable podcast, episode 48. I'm Christian, and I'm joined as always by the Game Girl Advance SP herself.
Howdy.
Thanks for the salute, because we're on
You're
FaceTime. Hannah, what's new?
Nothing much. Been freaking killing it in Okami, smashing that. It's taken up my whole day, my whole time, my whole free time for playing games. That's been fun. That's pretty much it.
Give me one exciting thing that happened to you in the last week.
Let's see.
On the
My
spot.
cousins. No, I got you. My cousins are down from Colorado, so I went to see them yesterday. That was fun. So I spent the whole day hanging out with a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I'm exhausted. We were in the sun, we're playing tennis, we're swimming, we're in the pool. Takes it out of you, man.
You touched grass, Hannah.
I did. I played tennis.
I'm sorry.
Who do you
to hear
know
that
that plays tennis?
I love tennis,
awesome.
low-key. I played for like 1 year in middle school, and I freaking loved it. It was the most fun I'd had with sports in all of school, truthfully.
I also played the tennis in middle school.
It was good stuff. I don't know why I ever pursued football in high school. It was a waste of time.
You could have been playing tennis this whole time.
I should have taken golf. Now that I'm getting into golf as a 20-something-year-old, like, I should have started golf in high school.
No. Golf is awful. It's like right behind baseball. It's most exciting sport.
It's
awful.
not about watching the sport. It's about playing the sport.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're both awful.
Well, let me tell you, Hannah, I got myself an iPhone 15 Plus in the last weekish, and my life has been changed. I was on the XR literally since we have been recording this podcast in the last 5 years. I've had the iPhone XR, and it's been a nightmare.
I mean, I think I have an 11, which is just one step above yours. Your old
wow.
one. Dang. Pictures are cleaner, I suppose?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving the camera. All three of them. The last phone couldn't even do portrait mode on video games, right? Like, that's the only thing I take pictures of is my freaking collection for Instagram. And I couldn't even do portrait mode on that XR. It was such a nuisance.
I don't think mine has portrait mode. I could be wrong.
Dang.
But, man, that's awesome. But that was a pretty penny, huh?
Yeah, I bought it outright because I don't like monthly payments, but the phone, I don't know. I hate it when iPhones literally, you don't do anything wrong. You treat it with such respect, and you always like keep it in an OtterBox for 5, 6,
Right.
7 years, and it still just craps out on you. It's the worst. And here I am still supporting Apple.
Right. And they'll buy it back for like $32. Perfect condition. Mwah.
I
Yes.
couldn't believe it. They gave me $120 for this thing.
Wow. That's surprising.
Yep.
I mean, that's only like 10% of what the new one would cost, but nice.
Let's talk. Actually, yeah, exactly 10%. I think. Let's get into this, Hannah. I got you a copy of Okami HD a few months ago in hopes that you would enjoy this game, and in hopes that we would do an entire podcast on this game. And here we are, a few months later.
Sneaky.
What?
It's like you knew.
Yeah. So we talked about games that we started but never finished back in, I think, 42. And that was a fun episode. I talked about Okami and how I had probably played like 3 hours of the game and then gave up, or just like fell off. You know, I didn't give up, but I wasn't sticking to it. And after doing research for that episode, I was like, man, I really want to play this game, and I'm definitely excited that we finally got around to it. And Yeah, I guess I would like to start by asking you what your earliest memories are of this game. You know, it's been out
Hmm.
for almost 20 years now, which is crazy to think
Oh,
about.
oh
Oh
my
my gosh,
gosh.
yeah, 20 years. No, 18. It came out in '06. But
Hmm.
the yeah, I guess have you had any experiences with the game in the before the last few months?
So never played it until I touched it, obviously when we were playing. But I knew that it was like a classic Wii game, and that it was so close to like The Legend of Zelda and like my jam with action adventure. I just never got around to actually buying it. I don't even think I saw it like in person when I was collecting Wii games and stuff. So I don't know. I don't think I ever encountered it, or I probably would have bought it unless it was like really expensive, which is totally possible. But no, I had never played it. Hardly knew anything about it besides that it was action adventure.
You know, this is the kind of game, like, you look at the cover, it's very Japanese, and it looks like it could be a cult classic, and um, it's actually like less than $20. You know, it's like not a super expensive game on any console.
Hmm. Yeah. Nice. Well, even the PS2 version, I feel like that would be more expensive.
I haven't checked. I think it's cheap though. I don't think it's too bad.
Oh man.
I might have talked about this, but I my earliest memory of this game was actually in a Game Informer magazine. I had a subscription to this for a year, maybe two, because like my parents got sucked into the whole like GameStop, membership or whatever. I don't even know how it
Right.
happened, but I got a GameStop membership for a year or two, and it came with Game Informer. So they're mailing me these magazines, and I'm young enough to where like I'm actually super pumped. 2006, I was 10 years old when this game was coming out, and I'm flipping through, and I totally remember an advertisement, like a full page advertisement for this game. Um, Maybe even like an article written about it. I would have to go see if I wonder if I have that magazine. Um, but it's honestly stuck out in my mind for years and years. Like I remember thinking, wow, that artwork looks so cool. That wolf looks freaking awesome. I wonder what the heck this game is about. Probably didn't even like take the time to read the article. I was just like looking at the pretty pictures in the magazine.
Yeah. Right.
Um, but I remember distinctly that this game was rated T for teen, and I was only 10, and there was no way I was going to be
Mm-hmm.
allowed to play it. And as a kid, I was always intrigued by the reason a game was rated T. Like, you know how ESRB says the different reasons on the back?
Yeah.
And this game, I remember it had tobacco references. And I remember thinking,
Hmm.
what the freaking heck why would there be like tobacco in this game? I was so confused, my little mind. Um, and last night, as I beat the game finally, I was thinking about what tobacco was in the game, and as the
I was
credits were
just
about to
thinking that.
roll as the credits were about to roll, there was this guy. You know how it was like going through the each character, all the main characters kind of just doing like
Yep.
a checkup or whatever after the during the final boss fight, really. um there was this guy. It was the dude who sold you or like taught you how to use the bombs very early in the game.
Oh
He was
yeah.
smoking something. Who knows what?
Right. Oh, I totally missed that.
I wonder if that's the only tobacco reference in the game. I don't know. It's just something that I noticed last night.
Huh. You think it would
Um,
be for drinking, but I guess not.
yeah, I don't know if was there any alcohol in oh, there was sake. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
there was tons. It
There's a
was
lot of
everywhere.
sake. I don't. I should have the game next to me, but I don't. There might be alcohol references on the back as well.
That's funny.
I just feel like at 10 years old, I was like, wow, I've never seen a game with the tobacco reference as a reason for a game being T.
Hmm. Well, gotta cover their butts, I suppose, huh?
Yeah. Um. Yeah. That's my background with the game. I bought it probably 10 years ago now when I first became a collector. We'll say 7 or 8 years ago now. I got it at a local shop for like $15. The game is still like $15, like I said. Um. Yeah. Played it with my best friend. like, I mean, I told the story already, but we started playing it. She went on to beat it without me. I said, screw it. I will play this another time or never again. And 2024, here we are.
Here we are.
And it is our second Hideki Kamiya game. For some reason, it wasn't intentional. We did play Bayonetta, Platinum Games' very own IP. But yeah, I guess that's a good entryway to get into some development history here. So I will continue rambling now. In Japan, this game would release in April of 2006. So just under 18 years ago right now. And then in North America, it would come in September, and Europe and Australia wouldn't see it until February of the following year. What would you say the genre of this game is?
It's definitely action-adventure.
Yeah. I think that whatever you would call Zelda is what this game is. So
action is your favorite genre.
Yeah, I need to go re-listen to both of our genre episodes and see what we learned, because none of it stuck.
We should do a remaster.
No.
Looking at it.
Not
2
a
years.
port.
2 years.
Not a remake.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I read an interview with Hideki Kamiya and Atsushi Inaba, who were both the founders of Clover Studio. Clover at the time was a team that was under Capcom that was created to focus on new IPs for the company. They originally formed as Clover 9 to have more creative freedom. Kamiya, much like the creator of Harvest Moon, was getting nostalgic for his countryside hometown, and after moving to the big city, and he wanted to make a game with a focus on nature. It sounded just like the interview I read with the Harvest Moon creator.
Right.
Kamiya was deeply inspired by how far graphics had come, and he mentioned that he was very impressed when he saw the Resident Evil remake on the GameCube. He said he wanted to try to make a game that was glistening and beautiful with these advancements in technology. Kind of a weird, comparison there, but I get what he's saying. I know he wasn't saying that the zombies were glistening and beautiful.
Right.
Since this was Clover Studios' first original game, talking about Okami now, he wanted to make everyone who played it a Clover fan, so he tried not to get too wrapped up in his, quote, own world and tastes. He said that he wanted to wipe away the image people had of him at this point, which was the guy who makes Devil May Cry and Beautiful Joe games. When they were choosing the art style for the game, which we'll talk about shortly, but it's essentially a very brush-strokey and looks like a painting, they had the idea to somehow let the player in on the painting action, which is where the Celestial Brush idea came in, and we'll talk about it, but Celestial Brush is the core of this game, and it kind of lets you draw and change the world around you. I would definitely say that is the thing that makes this game stand out the most. When creating the characters and story, they put an insane amount of effort into translating the game to Western audiences. This is probably the most interesting part of the whole thing. According to Wikipedia, there were 1,500 pages of text that had to be translated. This is because, one, how different Japanese is from English, and two, the different characters and conditional conversations throughout the game could lead to different dialogue from the characters. So that's it's a heck of a task. They knew certain things in the game wouldn't be recognizable by Western players, but decided to include kanji in the manual for anyone who wanted to dig a little deeper. Only one puzzle had to change in the entire game, and that's because it required you to understand how to draw a certain kanji character. A lot of the personalities of the characters were going to be hard to translate over to English, so the translation team worked closely with Kamiya to recreate some personalities and completely change others. So, right off the bat, so much freaking love put into the translation to get this overseas. Weeks after the game released on PS2 in North America and was getting solid reception from reviewers, Clover Studio was announced to be shutting down by Capcom after Hideki Kamiya and Atsushi Inaba left the company. We can talk more about that drama another day. That might be another episode of its own. But long story short, Ready at Dawn would handle porting the game to the Wii. Capcom said that the game being ported to Wii was a direct result of the sheer amount of requests they received for it since its original release. Apparently, on Capcom's website, there were message boards, and people were just like begging for Okami.
We.
Yeah, they really wanted to experience this game on like Wii or DS because, motion controls or the stylus would make painting so much more interactive.
Right.
So apparently the assets given to Ready at Dawn by Capcom to start porting the game were super incomplete, and they had to recreate so much of this game from scratch. They reverse engineered so much just to get it onto the Wii. This is a small tidbit, but I also learned that you could skip cutscenes in the Wii version, but not the PS2 version. That was just one thing they added in.
Yep. You can also do it in the Switch too. I noted that as well. Like that.
So that's what I have for development history. I think it's insane that Ready at Dawn, they basically said that like, hey, we're not going to change much. This game is already amazing, but we are going to have to work really freaking hard just to get it back to like porting this should be easy. But we have nothing, so we're literally going to make this amazing game mostly from scratch. Like I don't know how much from scratch, but I don't know what assets we're missing. But Capcom was not a big help, evidently. I don't know where Ready at Dawn is now. I hope they're doing all right. I hope they have some money. But good job, Ready at Dawn. I played the Wii version, and I can say they did a great job.
I swear that it came out on the Wii first and then was ported to the PlayStation 2, but I have that totally backwards.
2 years apart. This game actually came out on the Wii in 2008.
Wow.
Let's talk version differences. So you played on Switch, I played on Wii.
Yep.
Right off the bat, something that I learned last night is, remember last night we were talking about the credits and I said that there were none in my game?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is actually because of the drama with Clover leaving Capcom.
Oh.
They completely removed the credits for these poor Clover people who made the freaking game.
That doesn't seem right.
They blamed it on legal constraints, and evidently someone on a forum post said that the credits were a pre-rendered movie that contained the Clover logo.
Oh, so they couldn't get rid of it even if they wanted to. Aha, it's awesome.
It's a super crappy move to remove credits like that. I mean, it's like, this game of all games is a piece of freaking art. It has dozens of people who worked super hard on it. They absolutely deserve to be recognized.
Yeah, that ain't cool.
So I don't know which version of the game was like ported to HD and whatnot, or if it was like, I don't know how any of that works. But yeah, do you have any version differences you wanted to bring up?
There's nothing super significant. Obviously, with the Wii and the Switch, they have motion controls. Something unique to the Switch, though, is that it has touchscreen controls, which is pretty neat. You just use your finger to kind of draw out the brush strokes, which is nice. Like you said, you can skip cutscenes, which is nice. You just press the plus button. Mwah. Also, the scene where it changes from day to night and night to day, you can totally skip that, which I did every single time after figuring out. And then also, I don't know if your version has this, but apparently there's a mini game when you're like on the loading screens that you can, I don't know, play and do whatever and get demon fangs so that you can use them in the game. But the Switch version doesn't have this as default, but it can be toggled on. So I thought that was interesting.
Wow. No,
Yeah.
I didn't see it in the settings, and it definitely wasn't the default, so I don't know if the Wii has that. That's neat.
I didn't know it was there. And then the other thing, of course, obviously the graphics and everything is better and it runs a little smoother. But also, when you go into, we'll talk about it later, I guess, but There's brushstroke mode, which is where you're actually going to draw the designs. The whole screen kind of goes gray, or like brownish kind of gray, and you can adjust the screen. Like you could adjust the camera in that mode, which originally you couldn't do, but in the Switch version you can do.
With filters,
So
right?
that was nice. What?
Like, is it filters that you can adjust?
No, you can like actually turn the camera. So if you freeze it on a frame and you move the analog stick to the right, it'll move it over to the right, so you can see more in that direction.
Oh, I gotcha.
So I guess
Apparently
you
the
couldn't do that
HD
in the other
versions. Apparently the HD versions do have some filters. I was reading into that a little bit. It's like how dense the parchment paper look of the game actually is. That can be adjusted.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
yeah, not in the Wii version though.
I
So,
wonder what the default is though.
did you have any like slowdown? Was there any issues with the gameplay?
No, I did not notice anything like that. Now I don't have a keen eye for that kind of stuff, but if it was there, it was not noticeable at all.
That's good. I didn't expect any. Um, I had no issues on my ancient 2008 copy of the game either.
It was fine. It ran awesome, and it looked beautiful too. Mwah.
I think that we can move into the story. So, just as a little overview for the listeners, we're gonna talk story. Hannah is gonna talk story, and I'm gonna supplement her research. We're gonna talk gameplay, and then we're gonna talk about the impact and reception, overall impressions and thoughts, and yeah. Hannah thinks it's a 3-hour podcast. I'm thinking 2, but here we go. Let's get into it.
Bring it on. So I will preface this by saying that I'm not going to talk about the whole story because I don't want to spoil it. I know you're not a story guy, but like I was thoroughly enjoying the story.
I was
And I
into it.
knew, I feel like you can't really appreciate the story unless you kind of see like the Japanese influence and mythology and stuff behind it. So I'm not going to go like towards the end of the game. I'm going to leave that as a mystery for the player to solve. But I will say that going into it, I did not think the story was going to end up where it did. At all. I don't know if
Yeah.
you felt the same way.
I did not feel the same way, but it was definitely interesting all the way through.
Alright, so I'll go ahead and explain the story a little bit, and then you can kind of fill in the details if you think it's important. So the game starts with like, the whole story is kind of like a storybook. Like, it's being narrated, and then, well, I mean, it runs through like a storybook, right? Like, it starts off, and it's telling you the history of this, and it's the beginning as it tells the tale of 100 years ago, with a white wolf named Shiranui, and the legendary swordsman Nagi, who fought and sealed away the 8-headed demon Orochi, to save Kamiki village and Nagi's favorite maiden, Nami. And so it's kind of just, you're not playing through this part, it's just kind of like telling you, like, hey, this happened 100 years ago.
Right.
And obviously they failed to kill this demon. They just kind of sealed him away, which is why he's back 100 years later in the present day. So in the present day, which is where you're playing through, something happens. I'm not going to say what happens because it's kind of like a big reveal. But Orochi once again curses the land. And Sakuya, which is the wood sprite and the guardian of Kamiki village, which is like the main village that you're in. It's where Shiranui is. It's where you kind of start off, where you see all these characters, where like all the dialogue is kind of given. Calls out to Amaterasu, which is the sun goddess, and asks her to rid the land of Orochi, right? So Amaterasu is the reincarnation of the white wolf from 100 years ago, Shiranui, but isn't nearly as powerful because she died. Spoiler alert. So you're kind of having to rediscover and regain her powers as you go through the game.
Yeah. Very solid.
So, yeah. So Amy, which is her nickname, given by I don't know. I think he's a person. Isun, the little guy who kind of looks like a mushroom.
Sprite.
Yeah, a sprite being person. I don't know, but he's teeny tiny. He's a little artist. He's like your companion throughout the whole game. When we first started playing, we were like, oh god, it's a Navi situation. He's gonna like interject himself into everything. And he does, but it's like, I didn't find him very annoying, did you?
No, he was like a total jerk at the beginning, and he gets better for sure. But like as
Yeah,
far as talking too much or anything, I didn't get that vibe.
no. But I was like, oh, this could be so bad. But no, he was actually cool. He was kind of like a little bit of comic relief, if you will,
Yeah.
because Amy doesn't talk, so like he talks for you, which is funny. But anyway, he's traveling along with you in order to record and kind of like paint the celestial brush techniques, which we talked about is something that you're gonna learn throughout the entire game. And then throughout the game, Amy and Isun discover these celestial brush gods, which are hidden in the constellations. And they teach you these techniques, and then you can use them both in combat and outside of combat to beat enemies and kind of traverse the world as a whole.
I was
And
kind of
then,
confused from the get-go, like because Isun is an artist that is traveling with you and you're learning celestial brush techniques. I was like, is he on your back doing these paintings the entire time, or am I doing the painting?
oh,
But I think
that's
it's
interesting.
actually, I think Amaterasu is actually doing the painting, because at one point in the game, Isun is like, yeah, I've learned all of these techniques from you. Now I can leave. Plus, when you do the final boss, Isun's not really there, question mark, and so you're
Yeah,
still able to do them. Um,
good point.
so
Good
I do
point.
think that, I don't know if anyone else out there playing had that same confusion, but I'm pretty confident that Ami is doing the painting.
That makes sense. She's either holding the brush in her mouth or she's just like thinking about it and then it's
Right.
drawing on the screen. She doesn't have hands. So how could she draw? All right, let's see. Several times in your journey, you meet Waka, who again am not going to say who it is because it's kind of like a big reveal at the end. Who has visions of the future and kind of will give you little hints along the way. He's like, oh, Mishari, or whatever. He's randomly French for whatever reason. I guess because it makes him stand out a little bit. I don't know. Or maybe he's supposed to be different, which hint, hint, he is. And then without getting too spoilery, after you beat Orochi, an evil darkness like escapes his body like in a mist, and it kind of like floats away ominously in the distance, and it's like, yay, you beat the big bad guy, which you thought was going to be the big bad guy, but it's really not. There's another big bad guy. It's like, all right, cool, but like you don't hear about the big bad guy until you've already beat more bosses, and he's just like randomly introduced. It's such a weird thing. I think we'll talk about it later, but like you think you're done, and it's like, nope, psych, that was only part one of the adventure.
Yeah. I would say there
And
were
then
three parts to the adventure, perhaps. Three
I agree.
thirds. Yeah.
So this is the first third, and it's like, yay, the adventure has just begun. It's like, what are you talking about?
Right?
I thought that was it.
I'm 10 hours in.
Um,
What do you mean?
yeah, what are you talking about? So then, like I just said, later you discover that the big bad guy, like the overarching bad guy, is called Yami. And he is just kind of described as a demon controlling all of the evil spirits and things. He's the big old mastermind. So after you beat all of these bosses, some more of his influence, kind of shudders away into the distance.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. And then, let's see, the last thing, I'm not going to spoil the ending because I think it's super cool, but I will drop hints just in case you're, like, interested. There's, like, weird time travel. There's also, like, more introductions into, like, gods and celestials and, like, where they come from. And then, like, a completely new tribe of people that you just kind of hear about.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. So, yeah. That's what I got for the story. I didn't want to describe too much stuff, but I think that's a pretty good explanation of the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah, very solid. I guess to talk about the cutscenes a little bit, the there was like no such thing as a short cutscene. Everything in this game was like, you better sit down and relax and just get ready to push the A button a lot, because you're going to be here for several minutes reading, because there's no voice acting
Yeah.
in this game. It's all reading. Um, it's a lot. It's definitely interesting, but I mean, it is a large chunk of the game. It is a lot of time of the 30-hour playthrough or however long it takes to get through the game. It is several hours probably all combined. Um, that might be dramatic. I'm not sure, but it's a lot. Um, I had this example I wanted to bring up of like how wild this story is. It's a good thing, I think, because the game is very interesting and unique. But there's this old bamboo seller man. He has a granddaughter that he found and adopted one day. I'm gonna keep this very high level, but she gets called by the emperor to be imprisoned. We save her in along our journey to like it was along our journey, but we were doing something entirely different when we found her. But then she says that there's a mysterious force calling her, so we follow her to Sansa City, where an ancient technology in the shape of a freaking space rocket rises out of the earth, and then she just disappears, and we never see her again. That's the kind of
Yeah.
crap that happens in Okami.
So I have that later, but that's like a traditional, like very old Japanese folklore story. And it basically goes the same way. I have a little bit about it if you want me to read it, or unless you want me to wait.
Oh wow, yeah, read it.
Okay, so the bamboo seller and Kaguya are actually, like I just said, from an old story, but essentially, this old man is like chopping bamboo up on this mountain, and then he stumbles upon like a baby girl in the middle of a stalk that was like shining and golden. And so he cuts the stalk down and he's like, oh wow, that's a child. And he's like, I've always wanted kids of my own, so I'm gonna raise this one with my wife as like my daughter or granddaughter, whatever you want it to be. And she grows into like the most beautiful woman in the whole wide world of Japan. And so attracts the attention of all these different men who come and court her and want to marry her and blah, 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 blah. She also catches the attention of the emperor, who wants to marry her, because of course, why not? She's the most beautiful person. But she actually reveals that she's from the moon and that she needs to return to the moon. And the old guy tries to stop her from going, or the old man tries to stop her from going. And the emperor is like, well, you're definitely not going. You're mine. You're my property. So I'm going to lock you away and put all these guards around you. But in the end, the moon people came for her and she returns to the moon.
Dude, that is one for one. Holy crap.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's exactly the same. I saw Kaguya-sama, which is what it's called, what the story's called, and I was like, I wonder where this is going to go. And it did. It's exactly what you think it would be.
How interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess there's probably a ton of that in this game.
Literally every character is either based off of a folklore or like a real life person. It is crazy.
Dang.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
It's one of them weird things.
So where are we going next? Are we moving into gameplay now?
I have a little bit of stuff about the characters and their like cultural significance. Boom. All right. So a lot of this, well, I am no expert in Japanese culture. I will say that. While I did study it, I am not an expert. So I just kind of went through all of the characters and kind of looked at some of the interesting things, and we'll find out that the story is also another Japanese folklore, but I'll get into that in a second. A lot of the stuff I either looked up on my own, or there's an interesting GameSpot post by, I want to credit the person, Ahojed, Ahojed. So shout out to him. He went through like a whole thing, did all the stuff, did all the research.
Awesome.
And of course I went and fact checked it, which was nice. So the Okami name, which is what the game is called, and what Amy is later referred to as in the first part of her name, the game itself is a pun. Which you really only fully understand if you know like the Japanese kanji, but I'll try to explain it the best I can. So Okami, written in one kanji, means wolf. But then if you write it in another kanji, it's pronounced the same way, but it's the two kanji for big or great, and then deity or god. So it means wolf and great deity.
Nice.
Which is interesting. Also, the honorific name for the Shinto sun goddess Amaterasu, which we've been talking about this whole time, uses the same kanji, big or great, and deity. But it's pronounced differently. So it's the same kanji, but it's pronounced differently. It's Omikami, if that means any significance to you. Also, her name was derived from the verb amataru, which means to shine or illuminate. So it's like the big shiny deity. So I guess that translates to sun, the sun goddess. So that's
Yeah,
interesting.
and like her
Japanese.
being the goddess of the sun was like barely mentioned in the game, but that's what she is. Like I think I heard it like once or twice.
Yeah, well, I mean, Okami's main power, or Amy's main power, is drawing the sun. Like, she has that without having to do anything. That's just like her innate ability, which is interesting. And then it kind of comes in play at the boss fight, too,
Yeah.
when the sun is gone. So, as far as other character names, so Amaterasu comes from Japanese mythology, which I just said. She's a sun goddess and is considered one, if not the most important Shinto deity, which Shinto is just kind of like a religion that happens in Japan. I didn't do a lot of research on it because, gosh, is it long? It's like the origins of Christianity. It's like, where does that come from? What are all the things about it? So I decided not to research that. But here's another thing. So Amy has a brother. Do you want to guess what the brother's name is?
No.
Oh, it's Susanoo. And if that sounds familiar to you, that's because that's the bum hero of Descendant of Nagi, which is the other original hero, who you like help out through the entire game. He's like lazy, he doesn't want to do anything, and then you kind of like you wake him up and you're like, "Hey, bro, this is like your destiny." And then he kind of like snaps out of it. You know what I'm talking about, the main guy.
Yeah, yeah.
So Amy has a brother, that's his name, who is the god of storms and the sea. Apparently he has like a super bad attitude and is prone to fits of rage. So that comes back to bite him in the butt. And then this is gonna blow your mind because it blew my mind. But he's got like a super ton, a lot of history. But the most interesting one is Susanoo was banished from the heavens at one point for his destructive nature. Blah 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 blah. During his banishment, he came down to the part of Japan and met an elderly couple. The couple explains to them that 7 out of 8 of their daughters have been devoured by a monstrous serpent known as Yamata no Orochi. And they said that they fear that their 8th daughter is going to fall victim to him. Now, if that sounds familiar to you, we thought the big boss of the game was Orochi.
Yeah.
It's like his whole thing. And the 8th daughter is named Kushi Narahime, which, if you remember that name from the game, Kushi is the name of the woman who was brewing the sake, who was going to be Orochi's next victim.
Yeah.
So it's like the whole story. And basically what he does is Susanoo is able to defeat Orochi by getting him drunk on sake and defeating him in his drunken stupor, which is exactly what happens in the game. Verbatim.
Yeah.
And then after defeating the demon, Susanoo notices a sword in its tail. And the sword is called the Sword of the Gathering Clouds of Heaven, or the Grass-Cutting Sword, aka in Japanese, it's Kusanagi no Tsurugi. And then in the game, it's just shortened to Kusanagi, which is one of the glaives that you actually get in the game. But instead of getting it when you beat Orochi, you get it when you beat Ninetales, which is another enemy of the game. I don't know if you remember it, but it's the green sword that's got like the purple and blue kind of wrap around it. I don't know if you ever used that one, but there it is. It's in the game.
Very cool.
And it's given to Amy as an apology gift in the legend, or in the mythology. So take that what you will. It's cool. The whole story
That is awesome.
is mythology.
Things that you don't even realize when you're playing this game as a Westerner.
Right? And then some of the other stuff is the celestial gods, which I don't know if you want to talk about them yet.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so there are 13 in total. Each of them teaches you a technique, blah 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 blah, and it's given to you from an animal. Like all 13 of them are different animals, and it's actually based on the zodiac signs. And if you're thinking, well, there was only 12 zodiac signs, what are you talking about? One corresponding with each month, blah 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 blah. There's actually a hidden 13th one in both Chinese and Japanese mythologies. There are a bunch of different stories and myths about like why there's a hidden 13th one and why one of the zodiacs never made it in. So if you're wondering what the 13th is, it's a cat. So the story that I learned in school, or somebody gave it to like me in a presentation or whatever, is that the all the zodiac signs, all 13 of them, were supposed to be meeting with like their leader, like whoever kind of commanded them, like the head god. And the rat spirit, which is supposedly the leader god's favorite, tricked the cat spirit and said that the meeting was on a different day. So everyone went to the meeting, and the cat was asleep and missed the meeting. So that's why he was not inducted into the zodiac signs.
Dang.
I know, the rat bastard. Let's see, the other stuff I have written a lot of different ones, but I'll keep it kind of short, just to like the most important ones. So Isun, which is your little traveling buddy, which we talked about, he's also from a folklore called the 1-inch boy, and his name is Isun Boshi. So an old couple prayed to the gods for a child, and they received a child, but he was only an inch tall, or if you're measuring over there, it's 3 centimeters tall, 2.5 centimeters. One day, he decided to leave and seek out his own fortune. He never grew up. He was only 3 centimeters his entire life. But when he left, his parents gave him a sewing needle and a straw sheath for his weapon, and they also gave him a rice bowl boat and a chopstick as an oar, because he's so tiny, on his great adventure.
What was before the chopstick?
A rice bowl boat, so like just like a teeny tiny little rice bowl. Set off on his venture. He eventually became a princess's attendant, and on his journey stumbled upon 2 ogres. He was able to defeat the ogres with his tiny little weapon, and they dropped a thing called a lucky mallet. And so the princess uses that mallet to make Isun into a full-sized man, and they get married. So it's like a happily ever after. And that's funny because in the game there's also a mallet, but instead of making you big, it makes Amy small.
Yeah. Wow, that's very cool.
Which you think would happen if you're smashed by a mallet, but whatever. It's also funny because Isun is like heart eyes for all of these beautiful women and all like the princesses and stuff. And he was destined to end up with a princess.
Oh, wow.
So interesting.
With the lucky mallet, I don't know if they intended to do this, but they did like this triple swing thing. Like you're going to get smacked and get small, but it actually just like sprinkled some magic dust on you.
Yeah. Yeah. They didn't want to animate you getting smashed and like crushed under the mallet. I thought that was funny. But yeah, that's really interesting. And then there's a bunch of other stuff. So Waka, which I mentioned earlier, is like the randomly French gentleman who you keep running into. And he's actually based off like a real life person, which I thought was interesting. I'm not going to go into it, but he's like a super prolific like swordsman and strategist, and he was like super influential in this clan war in like feudal Japan long time ago. But he's always brought up in like kabuki plays and like no plays and stuff because he, one, was a great strategist, but also has like a super tragic story. So after the war was over and he won, he basically, I don't want to say won it for them, but he kind of turned the tides in the war. His brother was like, nah dog, you're too powerful, I'm gonna kill you off. So he was sentenced to death, and his death was kind of widely debated. He either unalived himself by committing seppuku, which I don't know if you know what that is. It's something not good. He was either able to escape to Hokkaido and change his name and lived off a happy, normal life, or he escaped Japan and became Genghis Khan. I don't know if you know what that is. The prolific. Yeah. So he was either one of those guys. So that's interesting, but they never knew. Who knows? So literally every single character, there are so many more, but I won't bore you guys with it, but every single character has some sort of significance in Japanese culture. And I think that was so freaking cool.
I'm sure nobody is bored. Certainly not me. That is super interesting stuff. I appreciate the research. This is like my bread and butter. I love this kind of stuff. But it was so cool looking at literally everything. It's crazy. So, do you want to talk about Nippon, the setting?
That's just the fictionalized Japan.
I mean, explain it to me and the audience because I don't fully understand it.
Like where you are, or
so is Nippon a name that previously existed in Japan, or what is Nippon?
I just thought that was kind of like the fictionalized version of
Oh,
Japan. I'm
okay.
not sure because Nippon is still like used now, but I don't know specifically what it is. If
I'm
that makes
pretty
sense.
sure I talked about it in 42. That's my bad.
I do not know.
Oh well. We researched everything else. The setting
Right.
is basically Japan.
Yeah,
um,
but stylized. Very cool
yeah.
looking.
Yeah, so we kind of talked about the art. I mean, we haven't really talked about it a whole lot. It is very. Do you know the proper name of the art style that it is?
Well, it's heavily inspired by Japanese calligraphy, and I didn't research specifically what the term is, but I know when I took my calligraphy class, like the ink that you use, it's specific. It's like jet black, like the darkest black you could ever say or you could ever see. It's called sumi or sumi ink, and I think the term is sumi a, which just means ink painting or like ink picture. But
Gotcha.
so everything you see in the game is very it's got very big thick black lines like you would think when you're drawing or writing with a paintbrush.
Right. Yeah.
It's very
It's
stylized.
it says Sumi E on Wikipedia.
Yep.
Cool. It's very watercolory, and we mentioned the parchment paper style of look, especially whenever you pull out your paintbrush, the entire screen just like becomes a canvas of sorts. Um, but let's get into the actual gameplay and explain this paintbrush a little bit.
Yep.
Let's start with the controls though. So the game is a third person perspective, much like Zelda, much like it's very much like Zelda. You've played Twilight Princess before. It's like when you're running around as Wolf Link. It's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
When you're not in combat, you can swing the Wii remote or push the attack button to start running faster or lunge further during a jump. But when you're in combat mode, that obviously gets replaced with the attack command. Whether you're in combat or not, you push and hold the Celestial Brush button to pause the world around you and bring out the brush, the Celestial Brush, and you can start drawing on the world. It's very cool and innovative. I mentioned that it is the center of this game. It absolutely is, story wise and
Yep.
gameplay wise. You can draw as much as you want and then just release the button, but the game can really only accept one command at a time. Um, and when you think about it, like, we'll talk about the different commands that you're putting with this paintbrush, but the fact that the game is able to comprehend like these things that I'm literally drawing with my Wii remote or that you're drawing with
Yeah.
like the right thumbstick on a Switch controller, it's
Yeah.
really cool.
It is really cool and it feels like it wouldn't be intuitive, but when you're drawing these things and the screen turns brown or gray, whatever you want to say, everything behind you stops. Like everything is frozen. Nothing's coming at you. You're not like in a rush to draw this thing. It's very slow, very controlled.
For sure. Um, I kind of want to go through the Wii remote button scheme. Um, you can go through the Switch if you want, but I think the Wii remote is obviously very unique. So you just push A to jump. You shake the Wii remote to attack, and that got old very quickly, let me tell you.
I can imagine.
I played Twilight Princess on the Wii back in '06, '07, and I didn't hate it. I remember being a fan of being able to swing the sword with the Wii remote, but this game, it's either that I've like outgrown the Wii or I just didn't like it in Okami. I'm not sure which it is.
Right.
Um, but yeah, there was so much shaking to do these combo attacks and everything. Plus, it's like in Zelda, it was like which way you swung mattered. There was different
Yeah.
command, different inputs. In this game, it's like I could swing up or I could swing left to right. It's gonna do the same exact thing. um, so think about the Wii remote in your head. So you're gonna hold the one button, which is way down low on the freaking controller, if you want to open the map while you're running around. You press the
Mm-mm.
2 button to change perspective. Was that a thing for you in HD?
Nope.
So it was super annoying, but to change perspective, like it basically zooms you out. You have like 2 zoom levels of your third person view, and I always zoomed it out, constantly pushing 2 to zoom it out. Every cutscene, every time I fed a freaking animal, just the smallest of cutscenes would
Yeah.
reset the freaking the perspective, and I had to go down,
Ooh.
push the 2 button again. Um,
No, that's annoying.
so on the back of the Wii Remote, this worked really well. The B button is how you enter brush mode, and then you just point it at the screen, and then you start holding the A button to start drawing. Um, what was cool is depending on how close your Wii Remote is to the TV is how thick your brushstroke was.
Ooh, that's
Very
cool.
cool. And for the listeners, the brushstroke, like depending on how thick, like the thickness actually did affect the gameplay. We'll talk about that in a little bit once we dive into this some more. Now, while you're picturing this freaking Wii Remote in your head, the D-pad, the D-pad was how I changed my camera. That's how I rotated the camera.
No,
Which I don't know what else
no.
they could have done with given the controls other than give me a GameCube controller, but this was this was rough. And the camera was so slow. I wish I could have turned the sensitivity up. 32 hours I dealt with the slowest camera. It was a pain.
Oh man,
Was the
no.
camera slow to you?
The camera. Okay, so the game was really good at not making me have to use to like move the camera around at all. Like it was really good at following me where I moved, it moved. But when I did want to switch the camera, move the camera, it was not only so slow, but I kept having to fight with it. It's like I'd move it a
Yeah.
little bit and it'd be like, "No, dog, that's not where you're supposed to be." And it's like, "Yeah, but I want to move it." And it's like, "No, I want you to
Yeah.
sit right here." That was annoying.
Yep, I felt that a lot. So that's the Wii remote. We still have the nunchuck, which shaking the nunchuck was the dodge in this game. So
Oh
I pretty much,
no.
I pretty much never dodged. I don't know. We can talk about combat in a minute, but the control stick is obviously move. C is dig. That's fine. And then Z was just like the general action button. Or you can bark for some reason in this game. It's pretty cute.
I did that accidentally so many times.
Yeah.
I was trying to attack. Nope, I barked.
Is there anything you want to bring up about the Switch controls?
I used the motion controls for like maybe 30 minutes and then I was like, you know what? I like having the option of not doing that. And not because it wasn't great, it was fine. It's just I wanted to like sit down and relax and play the game. I didn't want to flail my arms around like a ding
Yes.
dong. So I mostly played with it in handheld or inside the grip, which makes sense as to why the thickness of the brush never changed for me. Because I guess I was just holding it the same way all the time. But that's really interesting. I didn't know you could do that.
So you didn't play handheld though, right?
I mean, no, I never played it
Okay.
in handheld, only on the TV.
So I was reading about the PS4 version that like the X button or like one of the buttons is a deeper brush stroke and another one is a not as deep brush stroke. I don't know if it's the same for Switch.
I have no idea. If it is, I did not discover it.
Um okay. Let's dive into so yeah, you mentioned that if you do play in handheld, you can use the touchscreen. I think that's awesome to have that
Mm-hmm.
option. What else did I want to bring up? Okay, so if you for those first 30 minutes you played motion, did that mean
Yeah.
you swung to attack as well?
No. You still just press the buttons. It was mainly only for the drawing.
See, that sounds perfect. I could have lived with drawing. Drawing with the Wii Remote was a blast, and it was very efficient. How was drawing with I assume it was the right stick?
Uh yeah, hold on. You just intuitively do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was a right stick, yeah.
So how was it?
It was fine. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was nice. It was crisp. Uh yeah, you held down the right or the right trigger button. I don't know if it's the small one or the big one. I don't know if it's ZR or just R, but yeah, you just held it down, boom, 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 done.
It just seemed weird to me that would be. It seems weird to draw that way, but I'm sure it's fine. I mean, you said it
It
was
was fine.
fine.
The only thing, specifically drawing the moon, I don't know why, but that was like the crutch of my existence. Like I sat there and I would draw the moon. I know I was supposed to draw the moon, and I would draw the moon like 30 times, and it was like, nope. You want to draw the sun? Nope. You want to make a lily pad? Nope. You want to do this? It's like, ugh. I don't know why, but the moon just messed me up because you have to make the curve, then you have to like go back through the curve. It was very specific.
What the heck? All I had to do was do a backwards C.
Oh no, really? Maybe that was my
Maybe,
problem.
yeah, maybe that was your issue.
Oh, I thought you had to do like a crescent moon. You draw the C and then you fill it back in, so it's like a 3D C, like a fat
without
C.
without googling it, I'm gonna say that was definitely your issue.
Ugh, that's not a moon. That's a backwards C. Well, all right. User error. My bad.
All right, Hannah, I have googled it, and it is definitely a backwards C.
No, no. Well, no wonder why I didn't understand what I was doing. But that's not a moon. God.
Okay, let's talk combat. This game, I mean, I don't know if you felt it, but I got some major Bayonetta vibes from this game. Or I guess Bayonetta had Okami vibes.
Right. Yeah. Me too. Very hack and slashy. Very just mash the buttons and hope for the best.
I don't think that's how you're supposed to play Bayonetta, but that's how we did.
That's how I did.
So Okami, the basic attack is like, I mean, as far as I know, it's just swing, and you can get different weapons. We'll talk about those, but for the most part, you're doing the same swing, wearing the F out of your freaking right arm with the Wii remote. And to do combos, it's just like time the sequential swings perfectly, and you can get a combo. It's incredibly easy, and it's super basic. And like, if the game didn't have the Celestial Brush, it would be the worst combat ever.
I agree. I
But
definitely agree.
they do give you three types of weapons, and I think there's like 15 weapons roughly in the game that you can like purchase or unlock. But the
Hmm.
three types are glaives, rosary, and reflectors. I'm not sure that I know the difference between a glaive and a reflector. Do you?
Uh, kind of. I think I don't want to say the reflectors like blocked anything any better, but it's like I don't know. Instead of attacking with like a long sword, you're attacking with like a circle, if that makes sense.
That's like a shorter, less like a quicker attack, I guess.
Yeah, kind of like you're beating the shit out of somebody with like a shield. Just imagine whack, whack, whack with a shield.
So yeah, I think you're right. The glaive is a full-on sword, so it's going to be your heavy attack. Takes longer to swing, and you can also charge it up. Whereas the reflector was just your quick attack. And then the rosary is what I spent a lot of time with. These are pretty cool because you hit anytime you swing once, you're landing like 10 small hits on your
Mm-hmm.
enemy. 10
Oh
might
yeah.
be a little dramatic, but it is several hits.
Yep. That's what I used. The whole game.
And yeah, I did switch it up a little bit, just kind of trying different weapons. There were no stats in the game, and that was a nuisance.
Mm-mm.
Like, they are laid out from left to right in order of like, I'm assuming power, but there's no real cue to
Doesn't.
tell you that.
Yeah, it doesn't say
Um,
that.
some of them cost a few 100,000 yen, and you're like, well, I mean, it's got to be better, right? I just spent all that money on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but there's no stats. I think that is probably an area of weakness that this game could have excelled in, with some stats on the weapons. But um, it does have a very brief description about each weapon. I'm not sure how helpful those were, but let me tell you about the glaive, Hannah. On the Wii, if you want to swing a glaive, it's just your regular swing. But if you
Right.
want to charge it up, you hold the Wii remote up. And
Oh.
that sounds cool, except it didn't work. So every time I would
Oh
swing,
no.
I'd be sitting here like getting exhausted. My right arm's getting weak over here, and
Mm.
it's not hitting. And I find out it's because it's sitting there charging up. And I'm like, that's not what I'm trying to do. So
Oh.
it sucked. I couldn't use it very well. I would love to hear like another person's experience with the glaives on the Wii, but no, it didn't work great for me.
Huh. What if you just slash from side to side if you're trying to hit and then up specifically only to charge?
Yeah, that might have been useful 12 hours ago for sure.
If only we had discussed prior.
So that was a nuisance. But you just stuck to rosaries?
Yeah, well, so another thing that they didn't really explain is like the main weapon and the sub weapon. I honest to God could not tell you what the sub weapon does at all. So no, I just normally use the rosary. I started off with glaives and then I was like, this is slow and obnoxious, and then I realized that rosaries was just so much faster.
That's so true. I feel like they did explain it in the beginning. I don't remember the difference between the
Whoop.
two.
Completely
Um
forgot.
and like you had both equipped the whole game, but what the heck did they do? Um I don't know, man. Very strange.
And then
You
I
want
was also reading that it depended, like there was different kind of styles or attacks or whatever if you had a specific main weapon and a specific sub weapon. Like for some of the dojo training, it was like, okay, you have to put on two rosaries and then you can learn this technique. But like,
yeah.
I could never discern what the difference was.
So I was gonna wait to talk about the dojo. We can do that right now. But the dojo does have more moves that you can unlock, which is mostly just like increasing your max combo from 4 to 5 hits on an enemy, like super lame stuff. But what you were just talking about is like towards the end of the game, you can go and purchase the ability to. So like if you have two of any of the weapon types, the two glaives in your primary and your sub, or two rosaries or two reflectors, it will just. I think all it did was increase the damage that they do.
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's what those did. So I took advantage of that at the end. I bought I used two rosaries, I think, and I just ended up, you know, maxing those out best I could. Um, but that was that. Yeah. Um, Also at the dojo, there were some really expensive moves. And did you happen to purchase the Golden Fury?
Nope.
Let me tell you about Golden Fury. For 100,000 yen, you can literally urinate on your enemies.
What?
As a wolf, you lift your leg up and pee on your enemies.
Okay. Does it do like massive damage? Why would you do that?
The reason you would do that is to earn Demon Fangs, which we will talk about later, but I guess Demon Fangs are like this very rare currency in the game that can be traded for special items.
Hmm.
So spending 100,000 yen to get this Golden Fury to pee on your arch nemesis will earn you Demon Fangs really quickly, which by the time I had purchased it, like the game was pretty much over. So that sucked. But can you guess what Brown Rage is for 2 million yen?
Are you number twoing on your enemy?
That's right. You number two, and it explodes like a freaking bomb on your enemies. And then you can basically, instead of trying to go and like corner your opponent and then pee on him, you can just throw a bomb down and hit multiple enemies at once and get plenty of demon fangs.
Why? Why? This game is not for children.
Golden Fury and Brown Rage. So I
Oh
did
man.
purchase Golden Fury. I barely got to use it. I did not have 2 million yen. That is for sure. Um, let's talk. Or is there anything else about the dojo you want to mention?
Just that I wish I didn't have to go all the way back to the first town or the first or second town that we were in to learn it, and that they should have had more. I know of two. There could have been more. I just missed it, but like I wish they were more thorough throughout.
I found three, and I found that they were pretty well spaced personally.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, the money in this game was just nonstop. I was never in need of more money unless I really
Yep.
wanted that brown rage.
Right. That's
um
funny.
so
No,
I
I guess
could
I
have
missed that second one.
I definitely could have used more if there were if the dojo master was there in more spots. I definitely would have spent more money on him. But
Yeah,
he was
definitely.
in the ice area at the end of the game,
Yeah.
and that's where I ended up dumping all my money before the final boss. Let's talk enemies.
Nice.
Do you want to cover this?
So I didn't really have a whole lot to say about enemies. I just specifically did like the boss that I enjoyed the most.
Yeah.
But I guess it's worth mentioning that there were very frequent like mini boss fights. Like as in your travels, you would like randomly approach a new town and then you'd have to fight like this whatever boss. I guess it's mini boss. You know what I'm talking about?
It almost just it just felt like they were introducing you to a new basic enemy, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, this is going to be someone you're going to see regularly now, so learn how to do it now.
Right. And then it's not random encounters, but like in the overworld as you're traveling, there's I can't remember what they're called. They're like they look like slips of paper that have turned into like ghosts, and they're kind of roaming around. I
Oh
think
yeah.
there's different colors, but I think the first one is green, then red, then there's blue, and then I think there's gold later on. I think that's all of them. But I
I have
assume
no
that they
idea
get
what they meant.
I don't know. I assume it was harder as you went on, or maybe it was more
Yeah.
enemies. I'm not sure. But they would kind of like, if you got in their vicinity, they would kind of chase after you and the music would get really tense. I avoided those like the plague. Did
Yeah.
you?
There was just nothing like you could get yen and nothing else. There was no real reason to fight them.
Right. Which I guess is why I ended up with so few demon fangs. But
That's
I avoided
true.
them like the plague. I would skirt around them so quick. If it wasn't
Yeah.
if it wasn't a fight that I had to do, I didn't do it.
Absolutely. Completely agree. I got mad whenever they would catch up with me, you know?
Yeah, it's like I wasn't running fast enough, or I got clipped by a corner, and it's like, ah, man, sucks.
But I mean like even when I did have to fight someone, the the freaking fights were easy for the most
Mm-hmm.
part. There was like
Yeah.
this freaking man, tell me if you remember this, but this like Eskimo person on top of like the back of some creature was a nuisance, and I don't think I ever understood how to freaking actually finish those guys off, and there were several.
It was like the one with the ice on its belly or whatever, and you had to like hit it with some fire. Is
Yeah,
that the
so
one you're
like
talking about?
there's like this igloo on the back of a like literally on the back of
Yeah.
like a turtle. It looked like a turtle with
Yeah.
a big
Yep.
tail. Yeah.
Yep.
And it was like I could hit the crap out of this thing. I could deflect its attacks back at it, and it would just always get end in the same. Like I don't. It seemed like bombs were the only thing that could knock this guy out, and then his own flame would be how you
Yeah.
could melt the ice. Only
Yep.
it was weird.
Yeah. I didn't like that one as much. I also didn't know what I was looking at, to be
Yeah,
honest. The other
right.
ones I knew, but this one I didn't. The other thing I'll say is that the enemies were easy to beat if you knew how to beat them. Like you kind of had to be smart in like choosing what brush technique you chose to use.
Yeah.
So most of them are easy, and it kind of told you. And one thing I really like about this game is that if you didn't get it by like the first, the second, or the third time, it would show you what you were supposed to do. It would literally draw out the brush stroke on the screen and be like, yo, hint, hint, this is what you're supposed to do. Love that.
Yeah, I think I definitely saw that at some points.
It was like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, this is what you're supposed to do. And it's like, oh, that makes sense. Other than that, do you want me to talk about my favorite boss?
Yeah, let me kind
Or do
of
you want to save it?
let me kind of go through the different bosses real quick.
Yeah.
So, just I guess I won't name them all, but to name a few, you start off with the Spider Queen in your first like dungeon. I guess we haven't really discussed the gameplay per se. Oh, level design's coming up. Never mind. So there's Crimson Helm. I don't even. I guess I would have to describe all these if I'm gonna list them. Like Spider Queen is exactly what it sounds like. It's a freaking giant spider. It's pretty horrifying, really.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what is Crimson Helm? I don't even know. Like a horse?
Yeah. With some armor and a samurai hat. and two
The
swords.
tube foxes were literally foxes, which I think came around the time of the Ninetales fight? Question mark. I'm
Could
not doing
be.
great here. Um, yeah, maybe I won't list them all out so that I don't have to sit here and try to describe them all. But you can tell me your favorite.
So I had two favorites. One is just kind of an honorable mention, and the other one's my favorite. So there's Lechku and Nechku, which are like twin owls. You fight them kind of towards the end. They're like mechanical owls. They're
I
kind of
loved it.
cool. But then my favorite is, you already mentioned it, but it's Ninetales. Just because I feel like Ninetales is such an iconic kind of Japanese character. I think of the Pokemon, of course.
Yeah,
But it's like, and then Tails from Sonic, I think, is also kind of based on him. But he's everywhere. In this one specifically, when I was researching it, I didn't notice when I was doing the boss fight, but like the whole Kitsune spirit, which is just a fox spirit, like totally mocks the existence of Amy, and I'll explain that in a second. But just to explain the boss, it's literally a fox and it's got 9 tails. Pretty easy. He's got golden fur. Each of its long tails is like a brush tip, and it's dipped in red ink. It wears a mask on its central tail, which is like the main tail, like the main personnel kind of thing. And it wears a mask that's white with like red markings, exactly like Amy is, and it's kind of supposed to like mock him or mock her. It uses a 9 strike attack, which is a dark copy of Amy's 7 strike attack, because obviously it has 9 tails. And most of the Kitsune's attacks are kind of Amy's abilities, but kind of like a dark version of that. And 9 tails is even introduced to us as a constellation in the sky, and you're like, oh man, I'm about to unlock a new brushstroke. But no, it's a fox, and he's gonna be coming to kill you. And I thought that was really cool, because I feel like I read somewhere that fox spirits and wolves like don't get along, like they just don't like each other. But I could not
interesting.
corroborate that story, so I don't know where I heard that, but I swear I did. And the design of the fox is just really cool. Once you
Yeah,
kind of beat the 9 different things, the 9 different people, tails, like they break off and they kind of run at you as if they're their own enemies. Once you defeat all of them, you realize that the kitsune is just like a scruffy old fox with a eye patch over its eye. So it's like putting on this front that it's like this big giant beast, but it's not. Just a normal old fox.
so you had mentioned how you have all this free time to draw. This was the one time where that was not true,
Mm-hmm.
because this boss fight it shocked me and it kind of annoyed me, but like the truth is it was incredibly cool the way they did it. um you spent the whole 20 hours at this point in the game just like having all the time in the world to draw and draw with your celestial brush and everything, and in this one you start like drawing up your little sketch, and you quickly realize that the Ninetales is also drawing and is going to harm you if you take too long. It was
Yeah,
very cool.
that was really cool. That was really cool. There's a couple other instances where it doesn't freeze the entire screen, but that's like the only time when something is actively coming at you.
I never let it actually like finish drawing. I was just too like, I don't know, I was scared and I was in a rush, so I never let it finish.
Yeah,
Did you
just draw
like
something,
what
whatever it
happened?
is.
Do you know what
I think
happened?
he just charges at you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, very cool. You mentioned the owls. I thought they were super cool. The one of them was literally like a slot machine, and you had
Mm-hmm.
to align the slot machine. I thought it was super cool. Very cool boss fight for these mechanical owls. Um, all the bosses looked super cool. Blight was like this demon that had swords around him, um, and you had to utilize the slowdown power a lot. That was a very cool one.
It is really cool. Then there's another one. I can't remember if it's Blight or if it's a different one, but it's like a humanoid or human esque looking one, but it had a bunch of swords in its back. Is that Blight? Is that what you're talking about?
I think so. Yeah.
So that one, think I'm gonna try to recall this because I didn't write it down, but it's based on the story of a man who was stabbed a gajillion times during battle in Japan and like died standing up.
Wow.
And he had like a bunch of knives and well, they're not called knives. They're called daggers and like long swords. It's
That's
cool.
crazy.
Badass.
Okay. Let us. Yeah, that's definitely Blight. I just confirmed it. Yeah, he looks incredibly cool.
He's cool.
Let's do. Oh, we're not done with combat. So there was also Ink Bullet. Did you ever use Ink Bullet?
No, you wrote that down and I said, I have no idea what that is.
I never used it. I'm pretty sure it was garbage, but you could literally on my controller press Z to fire bullets at your enemy, like just any enemy. It,
How?
it was the amount of damage it dealt was like negligible. It was so weak. Never ever used it, but there were weapons, there were items in the game that would like I don't know. There were weapons in the game that would make it stronger, I think, or like some weapons didn't even allow you to use ink bullets. So maybe that's what the issue was, and that's why
No,
you
I
never
have
saw it.
literally no idea what you're talking about. Well,
Um, so we've talked a lot about Celestial Brush. We're actually about to dive into it even further, but that is your biggest thing for combat, aside from your main weapons. And we wrote down the tax with partners on your back. There were some really cool like dungeons. The occasional they would change it up a little bit where you would have someone on your back and they would do something different whenever you draw. Okay, I'm not doing a great job. So in some dungeons, you would have to carry a main NPC with you who would come and like need to progress the story with you. So there was this one woman who would be on your back when you're in this sunken ship dungeon, and there were ghosts all over the place, and she could like exorcise the ghosts or something. Like you could not attack them with your celestial brush, and you couldn't attack them at all. But you could literally draw a line with your ink to connect her to one of these ghosts, and she would just absolutely annihilate them.
yeah, that was really cool. And then another one was you're kind of shrunken down to Isun's world, and he's at one point the same size as you, and he's riding on your back, and you can draw from him to specifically a chest that was on fire or like somewhere far away, and he would go and snatch whatever the item was and come back.
Yep. And I think one other one was in the game, and it was something to do with lightning, maybe. Um, but yeah, those were cool little changes of pace. Did you? The last thing we have here is dodge. I never dodged. You dodged a lot.
I did. Not only did I dodge, but I also upgraded and bought from the dojo something that would upgrade my dodge attack. So where if I dodged out of the way of an enemy, it also hit the enemy back. So I would attack them and then dodge, and it would attack them, and then I attack them and then I dodge. It's
Heck
like
yeah.
double tap. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
that sounds pretty freaking useful. You didn't have to swing the nunchuck though, so.
Right. You're right.
Okay, I think that's it for combat. Let's talk about the actual how you play this game. This game is
Yeah.
somewhat open world. It's very linear. It's pretty much always telling you where you need to go next.
Yep.
But at the same time, it is open world. You can go there whenever you're ready. There are side missions, plenty. I'm not gonna say plenty. There are a decent amount of side quests and side missions throughout the game. Did you see? Did you find yourself doing side missions?
Absolutely not. Nope.
They weren't marked on the map. You know, it's not like an open world game in 2024 where it's like go here for the side mission and then it'll tell you where to go next. Um, there were very occasional side missions that I would even come across. Um, like there's a few areas in the game where they're like, go and hunt down these specific demons for me and cross them off your list. I didn't even
Yeah.
want to. We just sat here and talked about how we didn't want to fight the regular bosses or regular enemies. We weren't gonna go hunt down these side quests. Um,
Yeah.
I did accidentally run into one at the very end of the game. Did you fight any of them at all?
I don't think so. If I did, I never checked to see if it actually was one or not.
So you'll
So
know
it's possible.
because the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's kind of neat and like dumb. But after you defeat one, there's like this scene and it's like it brings up the list of enemies that you have to kill for whatever side mission,
Oh.
and it's like go ahead, cross it off yourself. For whatever reason, they let you draw with
Oh,
your paintbrush to cross it off.
oh, that's so cool, man. I'm sad I
It
missed
is
out on that now.
very cool and unnecessary. Um, the gameplay revolves around solving puzzles using your various brush techniques throughout the game. I feel like we've been egging you guys on. Let's finally talk about all these different brush techniques, shall we? Um, I will explain them all. You can kind of break down the kanji and
Yep.
any other interesting facts about them. But first off, we have the sunrise, which is literally a circle in the sky. It brings the sun up. It is what Amaterasu is known for, evidently, and she can literally turn night into day by drawing a circle in the sky.
Yep. That's it. That's her power. I don't have anything about that one.
Rejuvenation is
Hmm.
also a pretty huge part of this game because it is all about nature. It's all about, getting rid of the darkness in the world. And this one's not helpful in battle, but it can, like, you can revive dead trees, and that is to your advantage. You can revive dead plants. You get a currency that we'll talk about later for doing this, but yeah, that one, I don't know, not too special. Not a lot to do with out like in battle or really anything. That's probably the least used one in the whole game.
So I do have something about this one. This one is introduced to you by a dragon god known as Yomigami. And anytime you see Gami or the word Kami, it just means god. Um, so Yomi refers to the underworld or is like a place of the dead. Um, but Yomi Gaeru, which is a verb, means to be resurrected.
Oh, I love it. You get your first attack, which is the power slash. It's literally just drawing a quick flick of the wrist, like a quick line across the screen on whatever enemy you want to kill, or whatever like jar you want to destroy and take the items. Just power slash is incredibly useful. I used it throughout the entire game.
So this one is given to you by a mouse or a rat. That rat bastard. Like I said, these are all zodiac signs. Called Tachigami. Again, Gami just means God. And Tachi means to cut or cutting.
Nice. We had green sprout, which is broken down into three. You have bloom, which I thought was rejuvenation. What is bloom?
Bloom is
Is
bloom.
that the circle?
Yeah.
Okay, so rejuvenation. Okay, back it up a little bit. Rejuvenation is where you draw on something like dead life, right? And then it brings flowers or something.
I think that one is where you fill it in, right?
Yeah,
If there's like
yeah, I think.
there's like a patch of purple and it's like black and purple, you fill in the black and then it brings it back.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So this one is used even less than I thought, which was already negligible. But your rejuvenation is exactly what Hannah just said. There is a patch of dead plants, and you can fill it in with color, basically. That's
Hmm.
that. Definitely does not help you when in battle. But bloom essentially does the same thing. You circle a dead tree. You circle like these giant trees throughout the game, which I forget how many there are, but the trees like bloom brings the entire world back to life. You need it for story purposes, not for combat purposes.
Yeah, I don't. Well, the only time you use it is when you had those lily pad esque looking turtle enemies, and then
Oh
you had
yeah,
to circle it.
that's true.
It's the
Um,
only one that I remember.
and then there was the water lily. This literally lets you make lily pads in the water so that you can hop across because you can't swim forever. You have a
Hmm.
limited time where you can swim before you drown. So lily pads are a must. This is a neat little
Yep.
thing. And then there's vine, which lets you. It's basically the grapple from Zelda. It lets you attach to certain objects and whip yourself across certain platforms.
So bloom is you said is introduced. Well, there's three green sprout. I don't know why it's called that, but it's introduced by three monkeys. The first one, bloom, is introduced to you by a god called Sakigami, and saku, the verb, means to bloom, obviously. The second one is water lily. It's introduced by Hasugami. and it literally means lotus. Hasu means lotus. Then vine is introduced by Tsutagami, um, and Tsuta means to spread.
Awesome. Cherry bomb. How often did you use cherry bomb in combat?
Literally never, unless it required it.
Dude, it was incredibly powerful, and it wasn't just at the beginning of the game. It was like knocking large chunks of health off my enemies all throughout the game.
Darn, should have done it more.
Cherry bomb is a circle with a stem, and somehow the game is able to understand that that's what you drew. I think that's insane that they can code it like that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's really the only one where it's not like one continuous stroke.
yeah,
You have to draw the circle, then lift it up, then do the stem.
yeah.
That one's really cool. So this guy is introduced by a boar or a pig. He's named Bakugami, and Baku means to explode.
Baku. This would also be useful in the world whenever you needed to find, just like in Zelda, like if there's a crack in the wall, you throw a cherry bomb down, it blows up. Um, pretty self-explanatory. You find secrets all over the place in the game with cherry bomb. Water sprout is basically you pull out your celestial brush, you draw from any source of water to whatever you want to get wet, right? Like it could be a flame, it could be an enemy that is fire type, it could be. That's probably it. That's about it for water sprout.
Right. So this one is introduced to you by a snake called Nuregami, and Nure means wet. Getting
That makes sense to
never
me
mind.
for some reason. That sounds like it would be related to water for some reason.
I don't know why a snake though. I guess that's the closest thing to water. Water
It was
snakes.
weird.
I don't know.
We got Hannah's favorite up next, the crescent moon. This is how you turn day into night by drawing a backwards C.
Stupid C. Doesn't make any sense. That's a moon is not a C.
This once again did not help you in combat.
No. It's introduced to you by a rabbit god named Yumigami. And Yumi, guess what it means?
Night.
No, crescent moon. Very specific.
Gale storm lets you draw like a swirly swirl in the it makes you draw a swirl so you can cause
Swirly
wind.
swirl.
And
Yeah.
this is where the how deep, what am I trying to say, how thick your brushstroke was mattered, because you could have a very thin brushstroke and have light winds, or you could have some really heavy winds come through.
I didn't know that. So that's interesting. But also the direction is very important. If you're drawing from left to right, the wind's going to go that way. If you're drawing from right to left, it's going to go that way.
Yeah, we should mention that like X, Y, and Z axes were like all relevant in drawing, and I think that was probably pretty tough to translate onto a different console. I mean, it started on PS2, so I think it's weird that they were able to bring it to Wii like that. It's just, I don't know how to explain it, but in my head, that seems like there's like an axis that is missing from the non-Wii versions, the non-motion control versions of the game. And it's just very impressive what they were able to do. It could be very frustrating at times because like I'm trying to drop a bomb here and it's actually like going in a completely different spot than I wanted it to go.
There
But I
were
think they killed
many,
it.
many times where it did that. It's like,
I think
oh,
they did a great
man.
job.
I agree. So this one was introduced to you by a horse named Kazegami. And Kaze means
Wind.
wind. Yeah.
We're getting somewhere. We have Inferno, which is the same thing as Water Sprout, but with fire. You basically just draw from a fire source to an enemy or to something that you want to burn.
Introduced to you by a phoenix because they're on fire. And so moe of moegami comes from the verb moeru, which means to burn.
Awesome.
Yes.
Let's do Veil of Mist, which slows down time. This one is just 3 parallel lines.
3 parallel lines? Mine was only 2.
Oh, you're right. It was just two parallel lines.
Oh, okay. I was about to say. Very interesting. This one bothered me a lot because I don't know why it's called Veil of Mist. Not sure. But it's introduced to you by a sheep named Kasugami. Kasu in this context can either mean two things. So it can either come from the word kasumi, which means mist, or it can come from the word kasuka, which means hazy or faint.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know why it's called that. It could be a translation thing.
I should have looked into that further, but I did not.
Catwalk. This is that cat that didn't make it to the meeting, I guess. Um,
Yeah, poor guy.
Catwalk is a very interesting one. So throughout the game, you're like seeing these cat statues. You're like, what the heck are we supposed to do with these? I thought for the
Mm-hmm.
longest time I just like wasn't taking the time to learn what needed to be done, and I don't know. I just thought it was like some secret I was never gonna get, and I was okay with that. But
Yep.
eventually, 2/3 of the way through the game, you get the catwalk power up from this cat that is on a tower in the freaking sky, and really interesting. I'm sure there's some Japanese tale there as well, but
I'm sure.
the cat lets you draw a line from the cat statue up to wherever you need to go, and like all of a sudden you have like a sticky wall to jump from, and you can jump as high as you need to as long as you drew that line. It's an interesting one.
The only thing I didn't like about this skill was that you had to line the camera up kind of perfectly so that you could draw from the cat statue
Yeah,
all the way up to where you needed to go. That was the only thing that bothered me. And then jumping was kind of temperamental. Like you really had to hit it as soon as you hit the wall, otherwise you're going to fall off.
I felt the same way. Yeah.
That was the only thing that bothered me. It's introduced to you by a cat god. Surprise, surprise. His name is Kabe Gami, and Kabe means wall.
Nice. um yeah, and jumping sideways sucked, right? Or was it just me?
Awful. It was awful.
It was pretty bad. um Next is Thunderstorm. Same thing as the Water Sprout and the Inferno, except this time you're drawing from lightning. The freaking dungeon where you get this one was actually pretty neat. I thought it was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you had like this. You had several spots where you like picked up a key that for some reason was imbued with like electric power, and you could
Right.
draw or the key, you would carry the key around and it would create platforms underneath you as you're running. Super, very fun, very cool. um and also, so this one is used a lot in combat. Anytime there's like a boss holding up a lightning rod of sorts, it's like it's supposed to be a sword, but like they made it so that you can tell when it needs to have, like when it is actually a lightning rod that you can attach to. You can electrocute your enemies like that. It's pretty neat.
Also, just electrocuting your enemies is just fun.
That's
I
for
mean, their
sure a
bodies
win.
riddled with lightning. So this one is taught to you by Gekigami, and Geki means to attack or to conquer. So that's like the only one that doesn't quite line up, but sure.
Interesting. We are almost through. We have Blizzard. Oh, is that the last one? Yeah.
Yep.
Blizzard was. The heck is Blizzard? Oh, it's the same as the other three that I just mentioned, right? You just draw a line from an ice source to whatever needs to be frozen, right?
Yep. That one was really easy, and it's this one's introduced you to or by an ox named Itegami. It's an ice attack, like you just said, and it's taken from the word iteru, which means to freeze.
So that is all in the manual, I believe, because they give you these kanji in the back of the manual. I know I mentioned it earlier. It's very cool that they included it. The manual is full of life, full of detail, like so many pages of just like interesting tips, and just there's so much passion that went into this game for sure. Like to think that they removed the credits. Like this isn't like some movie tie-in game from like a Ubisoft game. Like this is a freaking passion project, and it's such a horrible move. Definitely just rude to do that to them.
Yeah, mine My copy came with a manual, but it's like one little booklet, it's one piece of paper folded over, and it's like just about like the control scheme and like what this does and what that does. I'm sad that it didn't come with what you got. Yours
I'm
sounds
surprised you
awesome.
got that much.
Well, I mean that's true. I shouldn't be complaining. I got something.
There were secret celestial brush techniques. Did you find any of these?
No.
So this is neat. I had a feeling that these were optional, but I wasn't sure. So the things you could get were power slash upgrades, like power slash 2 and 3, cherry bomb 2 and 3. There was the mist warp, which holy crap, that would have been amazing. Basically, in this game, there are mermaid coins, and you can take them to specific lakes in the game, which already makes you travel a lot, right? You have to go to a spot, and then you can fast travel, which is slightly annoying. Um, and you have to have a mermaid coin, which requires you to purchase it in advance.
Yeah.
But this mist warp would have let you freaking travel to any of these save points throughout the game. Yeah.
Oh no! I didn't know
Um,
that.
so in order to get these, oh, there's more. There's Fireburst, Whirlwind, Deluge or Splash, Fountain, Thunderbolt, and Ice Storm. So there's a ton of these, and this is where the side missions actually mattered. That's how you
Hmm.
unlock these. Um,
Rats.
so I got one without even intending to do it, and it was like convoluted what you had to do. Basically, it was like a multi-part side quest, and I did it unintentionally. So after restoring the Guardian Sapling in Taka Pass, the Guardian Saplings are the big trees throughout the game that kind of revive the planet, or at least the country of Japan, Nippon. Um, After restoring the one that's in Taka Pass, you find the moles, you remember those guys, and complete their challenge to retrieve the golden teacup for the owner of the house, of the tea house near the save spot. So basically, this is super early in the game, like the first area. Um, Somebody at this tea house is like, "Hey, my wife really wants this item. Can you please go find it for me?" Turns out that's the item you win for like doing this side mission nonsense with these moles in the ground, and they're like, "Hey, come attack me." Um, that's what you earn, and then later you take that golden mushroom that you got from these moles, and you use it to. This is so after you cure the emperor. I know this is a lot. After you cure the emperor, which by the way, there's like a freaking dungeon in this game where you go small and get inside of an emperor. It's super cool.
Yeah,
um,
that was cool.
After you cure him, you go to Yama's restaurant in Saiyan City. You give this golden mushroom to Yama, and then when prompted to, you draw the mark of Moegami on the logs. That is, it's basically in this building. You see this symbol on the wall. It's an infinity symbol, and you draw it, and all of a sudden, voila, you've earned Fire Burst. It's like all these things I did throughout the game, I
Hmm.
had no idea I was doing for this purpose, but I got Fire Burst. And so now I can attack enemies with fire just by drawing an infinity sign, and it was like super powerful.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I had a feeling that we wouldn't have gotten the same ones if you got any at all, but that's the only one I found.
No, I had no idea. I feel like I started some side quests and then I just got distracted and never finished them.
Yeah. I don't know
Because
if there was even a list.
I didn't find a list, but didn't mark anything on the map for me. And
Yeah.
also, it felt like some of the ones you couldn't complete right away. You had to like continue to progress through the story, and then it would show up. And it's like in a different town, and then I just forget about it.
Yeah. So that is the Celestial Brush. Did you use it a lot in battle?
Only when I needed to. Like I never, like I said, I never drew bombs just to like blow up my enemies or anything like that. Only when it specifically needed it, because I felt like I was doing more damage just beating the crap out of them with my rosary.
You probably were, honestly. I did use it a lot. I think Power Slash honestly helped a lot. I mean, you used it when they turned gray, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, for the listeners, like the enemies will turn gray, and that's like a cue, like, hey, you need to use power slash on these fools right now. It's gonna be a large amount of damage on your enemy. Um,
Yeah.
that was just a thing in the game. Let's talk
And then,
unlockables. Go ahead.
ooh, I was going to say one thing that we did mention is that you're actually using ink when you draw. So some of the attacks use more ink than others, and you can run out of ink, which happened a lot to me because I didn't realize that you could upgrade it until like 3/4 of the way through the game.
Yeah.
So
Um, you. This is gonna be a fun conversation because you completely did not know that you could upgrade your character for several
no,
hours, right?
I was like 15 hours in, I think, maybe even 20 hours in before I realized that you could upgrade your health, you could upgrade your wallet, you could upgrade your stomach, and you can upgrade your ink. So I was doing all of this game with the default, the 3 freaking health bar and the 3, I think you started off with 3 inks as well. And I was like, God, this
Yeah.
game is annoying. I keep losing my ink. I can't do anything. Because once you lose your ink in battle, you can't. It's just like a normal bite attack. You don't have your weapon. You don't have anything.
It
So I
is a
kept.
nuisance being without ink in a battle. It
Oh,
sucks.
and you have to. Your ink recharges over time, but it still takes time to recharge.
Yeah.
So that was fun. And then I texted you. I was like, oh my God. I didn't realize it. And it's right there on the main menu. And I know it told me about it, but I forgot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean between the first time we played and like the where we picked up was probably like a few weeks of time difference, easy to forget.
Yeah. So I had
Um
totally forgotten.
that sucks, but I'm sure that you're a better gamer because of it.
Exactly. Always look at your main menu. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't. I didn't.
Let's blame that thin manual they gave you. It didn't tell you what you needed.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Look at menu. Could have been really easy.
Let's talk about the unlockables. So what Hannah was just describing is the praise. No, what is it?
It's praise.
Okay, praise is something you can earn in a ton of places. It's by reviving dead plants in the world. It's by filling in dead plants in the world with rejuvenation. And it's by feeding these freaking adorable animals throughout the entire world, and there are so
They're
many
so
to feed.
cute. So cute.
There are like bears, there's like gazelles, freaking sheep, raccoons, like there's so much, and you're just like minding your own business, and all of a sudden you don't even see them. You just see like press Z to feed, and you're like, oh, I gotta go feed whatever animal that was.
Uh huh. They're so cute. There's
Yeah,
little rabbits. There's little foxes. You can feed the dogs, I think. There's cats. Cats galore. It's so cute.
there were pigs. Yeah, it was crazy.
Tigers.
Oh yeah, you could just casually feed freaking tigers and bears. It was crazy.
That was fun. And then you have like the cutscene when you feed them is like this beautiful field of flowers, and the camera's rotating around Amy as he sits and watch the animal eat from a bowl, and the camera's circling around you, and it's like this majestic thing, and it's like, yay, you get 6 praise.
Yeah,
Woo!
6. And it's like I have left that on while I like pick up my phone for a second. If you don't press plus to skip, it just rotates eternally.
Forever. I was like, okay, this is a fun cutscene. Okay, this is fun. When's it gonna end? And it doesn't end.
I feel like I've been dominating this conversation. Do you want to talk about the unlockables here?
So, like I said, I didn't realize there were any, but we talked about the main weapons. You can either purchase those in the store, or as the story kind of progresses, you get more. So, like the big one that I said is you get the grass cutting sword when you beat Ninetales, which is really cool. I didn't write down any of the names of the other weapons, but it kind of alternates between getting the glaive, the rosary, or the
Reflector.
reflector, which is cool. There's also mermaid coins, which you talked about. Those were nice, but I feel like there should have been more places where you use them.
Yeah.
There's health, which is represented by like little balls of flame, or I guess you could say like a flaming sun. You can either unlock those by getting three green medallion thingies. I don't remember what they're called, but it's like the
Yeah.
heart pieces in Zelda. So you get four heart
Mm-hmm.
pieces, you get a new little flamey ball. It's like that. I think I only did that once. I was only able to collect like five.
I think I got 5 as well, honestly.
Yeah, those were like in chests in various places in the world. You had to go find them. Then there's also slips. There's exorcist slips and vengeance slips. I used one of them. I don't remember which one it is. It must have been a vengeance slip, but it like you use it and it kind of makes like a giant fiery ball that kind of explodes out and hurts your enemies in the vicinity. I don't
That's
remember what the other one
actually
is.
that's actually the exorcism slip. The vengeance slip
Ah,
apparently deflects enemy attacks. I didn't see that. I didn't really use that one.
no, I didn't use that one a lot. And then it's worth saying that there are so many of these in chests and things around that you never really needed to buy them. At least I didn't.
No. Yeah, I agree. The
Then the
most of these
stat
items though, I like
boosts.
straight up saved them till the end and like ended up like
Yeah.
blowing up the final boss. I was like, "Hey man, I just spent all my money. You're getting it now."
Yep. Nah. And then the stat boost is like, I think it boosts your attack or your defense or something like that if you use it.
The
Right?
stat boosts. Oh yeah, it's like a temporary the sake. You could temporarily increase your attack or your
Oh, yeah.
defense.
That makes sense. Then praise you already talked about. The ink, like we already said, the more ink you use, the more brush techniques you can use in a row without having to wait for it to fill up. Straight beads was another one. It didn't explain what it was until you opened up the chest. It was like, yo, collect a bunch of these and you get something. But it didn't tell you how many you collected or what you get. It was a mystery.
It was like you have to get all or nothing. And
Right.
it was like at that point I was like, I'm not getting all of them. Are you out of your freaking mind?
I don't even know how many there are or how
I
many I
think
have.
yeah, I don't think it told you, but I think there are 100 total.
Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense. Then there's also godlyhood, which I have no idea what that is. You have to explain that one.
I found out at the very end of the game that godlyhood is there are 2 items that will fill up your godlyhood, and I don't even think there's like a meter that shows your godlyhood, but you have godlyhood, and that means that you will deflect attacks. Like the game will automatically block enemy attacks if your godlyhood is full. It was really weird,
Huh.
and I don't remember it ever being explained.
Well, I know that there was also something that you could get from the store or get from like a thing that said it would fill up your godlyhood or increase your godlyhood by one. But like, I
Yeah,
don't know in what reference, like, I don't know what I was doing or raising by one. Where was my
yeah,
limit? Did it go away? Did it keep building? Did it determine what wet, like, I don't know.
very unclear.
Didn't know what I was looking at. Demon Fangs you already mentioned, and then the last thing is Astral Pouch, which is like your stomach. It fills up when you eat food.
Yeah, and when you die, if it is full, and you can upgrade this like 4 times, but you can be revived when you die. That's what the Astro Pouch did.
So, if you upgrade it, does that mean you need more food to get full? Why
Yeah,
would you upgrade it? Huh.
yeah, you upgrade it so then you can be revived 4 times.
Oh.
Yeah,
And does it like empty over time or does it stay full?
it fills up until you die,
Oh, okay. I did not pay that
and
into
then it
mind.
only
It did
uses
not.
100. So it did take some time to fill up, but how often were you dying? We'll talk about that soon.
Right. And then I think that's pretty much all of them. I think that is all of them.
Demon Fangs, like, did you ever spend those?
No, I think I had 9 by the end of the game.
Yeah,
And that's
even
not enough to
after
buy nothing.
getting, even after being able to urinate on my enemies, I still like barely had any demon fangs. Um, I don't know. I never saw. I don't even remember what you could buy with the demon fangs, but it was nothing that was like, oh yeah, I need to go and acquire those ASAP.
No, I don't think it was anything that was different than in the store. And you could only, I think, trade them in at one specific guy. I could be
That was
wrong about
also
that one.
annoying.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all.
I think I found two guys that were taking demon fangs throughout the whole game.
Mm-mm.
Oh, one of them was
Oh,
the Emperor.
yeah, one of them was definitely the Emperor, and then I forgot throughout the whole thing. It might have been a side quest, but you're collecting like pottery and like vases and
Oh yeah,
dishes and like these random porcelain things, and I think you were supposed to trade them in. Oh no, you could sell them. I think you could sell
yeah,
them for like massive amounts of money. I think I remember that. But that's another thing that you get from random chests. It's like, yeah, you got this beautiful vase. Yay. You got these forks. It's very random.
yeah. It's like, can you just give me yen so I don't have to go sell this?
Yeah. It's weird. Just
Well,
one of those
another
things.
thing, you could fish in this game. Man, this game had so much depth. Now that I'm thinking about it, you could fish as like a,
Mm.
I don't know, to make money. I suppose. I don't know if it served any other purpose. Like there were some spots in the story where you had to fish, but like aside from that, like you could just go and fish with this one character at any point and go sell the fish you catch.
I forgot about that. Yeah, and then there's even in one of the towns, he sells fishing rods. I don't know if the
Oh
better the
yeah.
fishing or the more expensive the fishing rod, like the bigger the fish or like the more rare the fish. Don't know.
It probably was, or it could have been a side mission, for all I know. But there was a marlin rod, I believe, and I didn't buy that.
Nope. I also did not.
Thoughts on the soundtrack?
Beautiful. It is like such beautifully composed traditional Japanese music.
Absolutely.
It was lovely.
I never felt like there was one song that like stood out to me that I was like, "Oh, this is such a bop! Like this is like catchy," but it was all perfectly atmospheric, like with every setting you were in.
Yeah. Like if you were facing an enemy, it was kind of like more edgy, more like mysterious, like more fast-paced, but if you're like just exploring the land and you just made it beautiful, full of flowers, it's like very light and very airy. That's something that I noticed.
Was there ever like a
Very
soundtrack where you were
happy.
like, "This doesn't fit," or like, "This is weird"?
Not that I can recall now, but I feel like there was. I feel like maybe like Inside the Stomach was a little weird. I was like, I don't know what the vibe is here. But I can't recall what it sounded like, nor am I going to whistle or sing it to you.
Yeah, right. I had one that I'm also not going to whistle or sing to you, but I had one where I had to like pull out my phone and write this down for this podcast because I wanted to remember this. But overall, really enjoyed the soundtrack and like very good cultural music, perfectly fit all the settings except for one where we're inside the Waka Shrine, which I thought was weird. Why is it Waka? And also, there's a character named Waka, but this
Hmm.
one is spelt Wawka instead of Waka. I think it's unrelated. Um, but you're inside this ice palace. It has some very good music, but the problem is it didn't fit with the setting at all. You're in this like frozen barren castle trying to make your way to the demon twins at the top, and it's just like this goofy, playful soundtrack. Like it sounds like it could be winter music that would like fit in like a rareware collectathon, like freaking Banjo Kazooie or something. It was
Hmm.
weird.
I don't remember that one specifically, but yeah. I feel like there's always one soundtrack in every game that it's like, I don't know if that's what I would have gone with here. There's always one.
It was too goofy for this like ominous castle, but the rest of the game pretty spot on.
So I wrote about a little about traditional Japanese music just 'cause I thought it was interesting. So the music is comprised of five main instruments. There's the cello, which if you don't know what that is, just think of like a giant violin that you have to like sit down and play. It's huge. A violin, a piano, and then two traditional Japanese instruments. One of them is called a shamisen, which is a primitive looking guitar. It's got like a really long neck, only three strings, and it's got like a weirdly square but like round edge bass. I'm pretty sure if you remember those garbage encounters with they're called imps, but they held out like the guitar in front of them and you had to
Hmm.
power slash them. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what that instrument is.
Oh yeah.
The other one is called a shakuhachi, which is just a bamboo flute. So it's like that really airy sound that you hear in all the music.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think twice about the monkey having the freaking cello or whatever.
Yep. I thought that was pretty cool. And that's like, I want to say the bamboo flute is also, if you played Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I'm pretty sure that's the same instrument that they use to make the main sound. I could be wrong about that one though. But that's like
Hmm.
immediately what I thought of.
Okay, so we've talked about the art style a lot already. I guess graphically, how did you feel about the game? Like, not necessarily the art style, but just like graphically.
I thought it looked great. It's definitely, I know it's definitely going to be an upgrade from like the original versions because mine's technically HD, but I thought it looked fine. I thought everything looked good. Nothing was like weirdly out of place or like weirdly undetailed where everything around it was detailed. Even the background was nice. Mountains in the distance. I thought it was good.
It's not like technically HD. Yours is freaking beautiful, okay? I looked up some gameplay and HD looks phenomenal. Um, I thought that like back in the day when I first played this, I thought that the game looked kind of rough. And I was like, "Oh, like once I learned about TVs and like aspect ratios, I was like, "Oh, it's cuz I have it stretched." I used to play with my games like
Mm.
stretched out really ugly. Well now I have a CRT and I'm playing it with like component cables as God intended on the Wii and it still looks like dirt. I hate to say it. Um
Oh, man.
like dirt is extreme. It does not look like dirt, but it is
Dirt.
something about this game on both PS2 and Wii looks really blurry and washed out.
Mm.
It's not the art style. I watched the gameplay for yours. It is immaculate, and I wish that I could have experienced that. Um, but something about it, man, it looks really rough. You should check it out after this. It's very blurry. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with that, but as far as like the effects of the game, they're like super special. Like as you start to sprint with Ami, flowers just start to bloom behind you. It's freaking beautiful.
It's such a nice touch. It really is nice.
You're literally bringing so many things to life in this game. There's so many cutscenes where just like thousands of flowers start to bloom, and it looks great. Just not on Wii and PS2.
Ah, oh, that's such a shame.
Yeah. Um, let's talk difficulty, Hannah. I think we're gonna have different answers
Yep.
for this, but I I honestly felt like this entire game was like Zelda but on easy mode because I we can talk about how many game overs we had because that's going to be one of our stats at the end. I had
Yep.
3 in the entire game.
That's nice. I had one. Even accidentally playing on hard mode. I only died once.
Oh, I thought you were going to you said something this past week that made me think you were going to have like a dozen or something.
Mm-mm. It was, I mean, even when I didn't upgrade anything and I only had 3 life
Yeah.
or 3 little sun orbs, I only died once and I know exactly what enemy it was. It's the stupid, like, lily, I talked about it earlier, but like the lily pad one, we had to like draw a
Yeah.
circle around it. That's the only one that killed me and I was like, man, this is in the very beginning and I'm dying. This might be really hard, but it is not. It's super easy. As long as you have enough items, which I didn't use that much, but sometimes I did, I never died.
So you didn't even use the astral pouch to revive? Oh, I guess you said
Nope.
you never died, so
I mean, I
yeah.
died once.
So I would utilize I maxed out my astral pouch right from the get-go. Like that was where I spent most of my there's so many currencies. Most of my praise was spent on that. And it was great, if I only had 3 health in the beginning of the game and I had multiple astral pouches, like I would revive myself 3-4 times without any consequence, and it's too easy. The game was
Mm-hmm.
like too easy.
It was way easy.
I did not think you were going to say that. I'm glad that we're on the same page there. This game was incredibly easy. Um, but the Orochi fight, can we talk about the Orochi fight for a second? That was the longest, most boring fight, and you had to do it 3 freaking times in the game.
3 times, bro. Why?
So we talked a lot about Orochi, but he's this 8-headed dude that you have to take down all 8 heads twice in the boss fight to keep it short. You got to get them all drunk 8 times, and it's so easy to dodge the attacks, and it's just so time consuming, Hannah. I got I started using the items on the second on the second and third run through. Let me tell you this
Yeah.
life hack. If you're thinking about playing Okami, let me tell you about this life hack. There's something called an infinity weapon. You
Yes.
can start you used it. You can start
Yes.
absolutely annihilating Orochi's heads. Like you the infinity lets you have unlimited ink, and so you can just power slash power slash power slash until he's dead. It's crazy.
Yes.
Um Screw that boss fight.
Yeah, the first time I was like, okay, this is kind of fun. It took me a while to realize that he had to be like screaming or like roaring when you drew the line from the sake to his mouth. So I went around like a gajillion times and I was like, why isn't this dude dying? I don't understand what's happening.
Mm.
And then I realized you had to do it at a specific time. That was the only time where I was thought this fight was arduous and I was like, oh, this sucks. And then the second time rolled around and I was like, oh my god, I want to do it again. And then you had to do it a third time. Awful. And it's exact same steps. Like if they would just had changed it a little bit, it would have been better.
Yeah.
But it was the exact same thing every time.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. I mean, he looked cool, but like 3 times? Why?
So yeah, I wanted to bring that up. I'm glad we felt the same way. It was annoying as heck.
Yeah.
I think what they could have done to make the game more challenging is they could have completely removed health items, or at least limited them to like 1 or 2 per pouch. Like you did not need to have, you could max out at 99 dog bones, like your health items. And I mean, it was ridiculous. Like you could, and they're so cheap, dude. They're so cheap to fill up on.
Mm-hmm.
The game was way too easy, and I think that all it needed to do to make itself a little more difficult was just remove those items. There's a save state like every 8 minutes. There's a save point like every 8 to 10 minutes in this game. Like
Yeah.
they're everywhere.
I noticed that too. It's like I never in between save states. It was different in the beginning, but I think as the later kind of thing went on, I never spent more than like exactly 12 minutes or something in between each save. It's crazy.
Yeah. It was definitely different in the beginning. I don't know why, but like later on they were everywhere.
They're like, "Hey, you want to save? Yeah. Hey, you want to save? Yeah. Hey, you want to save? Yes, I guess."
It took a little too much time to save. Like at some point I would just be like, yeah, maybe I don't need to save right now. Like I just did.
Well, it strikes that
Um
fear in you when there's a save point that like if you don't save now,
yeah.
you're going to be screwed, but it's like that never happened.
um Camera we talked about made us both mad a lot. I talked about the D-pad sucking. Don't recommend that. And how freaking slow it was. Gosh dang it.
Yeah.
Um and I wrote that it was a big win being able to rotate the camera while in celestial brush mode. That was very helpful.
That was nice. I didn't realize it until, again, like halfway through the game, and I kind of moved it because I was trying to swing from one of the little droppy flowers where you draw the vines to the other, and I missed it, and then I fell to my death. And then I just moved the analog stick, and bam, I could move it. It was great. Never fell again.
Um you have anything written down for this other section?
Nope.
I wrote the blockhead gatekeepers. There were these
Yeah.
like straight up cinder blocks in your way. Um like maybe 4 times, 5 times throughout the game, and sometimes, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were like mandatory at some parts, right?
Yeah, there were a few that were mandatory, and then some that were not.
I found 2 that were not, and I think the last one I threw in the towel. It was too much.
I bet it was the same one. I had the same experience. I recorded it with my phone slowed it down to slow-mo so that I could specifically see the spots like several times, and I still messed it up every time. It made me so angry.
I
How?
consider doing the exact same thing. So for the
How?
listeners, there's a cinder block dude. He's like basically like you have to kill me to get by, and in order to kill him, you have to like basically draw eight or not eight. You have to draw like dots on him in the correct order. It's basically playing Simon Says, um, and the dots disappear, and you have to remember where they were in the right order. And it's fine for like the first three. The fourth one was like really pretty challenging, honestly, and then the last one is impossible. I think it was 8 bullets, and they just fire on the screen so fast. I gave it like 3 or 4 tries. I was like, I'm out of here. I'm sure it's like something amazing, and I don't even care. I don't want it.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I was like, this is my 5th try. I have all the videos. It's hilarious. You can see me going boink, 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 and I still messed it up. Hated those
That's
things.
awful. That's all I had for other gameplay notes. We will talk about overall impressions in a minute. Let's talk about how the game did. So Okami comes out, and I had no idea how high the review scores were, but it's literally Metacritic scores. I'm gonna go through every console. The first one, first release, 2006, 93 on the PS2. Very
Wow.
freaking good. And for some reason, it got a 90 on the Wii. Whatever, still great. PS3 remaster came out. I wrote it down somewhere. In 2012, it got a 90 again. PC, PS4, Xbox One all released at the same time in 2017. And it got a 92 on PC, 87 on console for whatever reason.
Hmm.
And then it came to Switch and got an 89 in 2018. So
What?
very high scores overall. Nothing less than an 87, all the way up to a 93 with the PS2 release. I think I read that this was only the 15th game to receive a 39 out of 40 from Famitsu.
Hmm.
Weird stat, I know, but pretty good one. It was. This is very interesting to me. I might have brought this up in episode 42, but IGN gave this the game of the year for 2006 despite Twilight Princess releasing that year. They said Okami is better than Zelda Twilight
Mm-mm.
Princess.
Mm-mm-mm. They are wild for that one.
I thought
No.
this game was great. I did not think it was Twilight Princess level at
No.
all.
Absolutely not.
There are a lot of impressive things in this game. There are a lot of unique things, but I'll take Twilight Princess any day.
Yeah, I agree. How did it I thought the Switch was like the best way to play. It's the most versatile at least. Why did it do less than the other ones? Just because graphics, I guess?
Well, it did better than PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah, but the original did do better than the Wii.
89 Switch, 90 Wii, PS2 93. Yeah.
Weird.
I don't know. That's all just Metacritic, and you have like, maybe no, I don't know. You don't need me to explain like how Metacritic works, but it's kind of unbalanced, I suppose.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting.
Sequels. Was there a sequel? Why, yes, there was. Kind of. It's a spiritual successor on the Nintendo DS that came out in 2010 in Japan and 2011 everywhere else. It's called Okami Den. So the producer said that the game is more of a spiritual successor than a sequel, but at the same time, the game takes place 9 months after the events of Okami. So I don't know. Someone explain that to me. This time, you control a wolf cub named Chibi Tarasu that hasn't reached his full power yet. So it's a little boy this time.
No.
You use the Celestial Brush with the touchscreen and stylus, which is what all the fans wanted at the time. I think that was a good move. I imagine it works great. I bet it works even better than the Wii Remote. Sounds like a fun time.
Probably.
The game was designed by Kuniomi Matsushita, who was the director of the Wii port of Okami. So at least we had some, like, some people who had worked on the game previously in there. The central gameplay is still the same. Pretty much dungeons and running around as a wolf, and you have a celestial brush. Pretty much the same core gameplay. Something new that they added is having various partners in the game. So we mentioned having a few partners throughout Okami, but in Okami Den, you can actually control various partners throughout the game to access areas that Chibutarasu can't get to. So that's a fun little gameplay mechanic.
That's cool.
There are also some mini games throughout the game, like there's a side-scrolling platformer, there's shmups. Not sure how they incorporate that, but I'm sure it's adorable. And you know what? That reminds me, we didn't talk about the digging thing in Okami, like the mini game. That was super fun, and it only came up like 2 or 3 times. But essentially, I mean, do you want to explain it?
Yeah, so it's kind of like, what was it? Dig Dug or whatever, where you're kind of digging down into something. But unlike
Yeah.
Dig Dug though, it's like blocks, and the different blocks you can either dig them to make them disappear or slash them. There's also ones that are filled with water, and you have to use the water spout. So you draw a line from the water up, and each time you're guiding a person down to the very, very bottom level.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It was the one where you're guiding Kaguya to the bottom in the like little bamboo field is when I realized that you can upgrade your ink. So I had only had 3 ink at that point, and that was like, it was impossible.
Oh,
I kept
man.
getting down to the bottom at like 3 seconds, and I was like, there's no way she can dig. So then I looked it up, and it's like, yo, you can upgrade that. And I was like, yes. So that's when I realized it. It was fun, but it didn't really explain how to like get the blocks to go away. You have to like look at the directions, and it shows you. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this block. I'm confused.
Yeah, the instructions were very helpful. And there were only like 3 times, like I said, throughout the game where you got to do this little mini game. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I could have used more probably. But I mean, 3 is a sufficient amount, right? Like it's not a core gameplay element. It was just kind of a side thing, I suppose. But it was good.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. And then before we move on, I want to talk about Okami Den, because the little boy, it's a boy that you're following through, right? A
The
child.
wolf, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
well, wait. What are you asking?
isn't there like a little boy or like a little child that's like his companion, one of his companions?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's the son of Susanoo and Kushi from the Okami game. So like during
Wow.
that 9 months, either she got pregnant or she was already pregnant and she had a son. And then he goes on to help the other one, the other chibi wolf. Isn't that cool?
I love it.
It's cute.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna
I don't
say
know
there
how it could
are
be a
some.
spiritual successor
Yeah,
if it's
they
the same
so there are
characters.
some characters and locations that return from the previous game, including Isun is in the game,
Oh, I didn't know that.
and like I honestly hated Isun for half the game, but like the latter half, I was like, yeah, this is the homie, and like I want to buy Okami Den just to see Isun again. I really liked him at the end.
I liked him too. Very comic reliefy. Very fun. He had some one-liners though. Kudos to the writing team.
Yeah, yeah. Um, that's it for Okami Den. The game is like $50-$60,
Ooh.
but there are like some interesting things that could come with the game. I'm not sure if they're pre-order bonuses or if they were packed in. I need to do a little more digging, but like I sent you this Okami Den stylus that was literally a paintbrush. It was super cool.
Oh, that's so freaking cool.
And there's also like a cloth, which I guess was to clean your DS screen. And it's all Okami Den themed. So I don't know how you acquired those originally, but those are cool.
The freaking ink brush stylus is so neat though. Like, that's just so creative. I mean, it makes sense. It's like a slam dunk in design, but like I wouldn't have thought of it. It's awesome.
So we did mention, obviously, the game got ported remastered. It was. I gave you the dates already. What I didn't tell you, Hannah, is that the game also came to Amazon Luna in 2022.
What is that again? I forgot.
I guess it's just like a one of those cloud gaming things, like Google Stadia.
Is it? It's not still around, is it?
Oh yeah, it's.
Oh,
I wouldn't say thriving, but it exists.
oh man.
If you have an Amazon TV or a Fire Stick, you're good to go.
Snap.
Yeah, I get ads all the time because I have a Fire Stick in my bedroom.
Oh, I'm a Roku family, so
Gotcha.
I don't get those ads.
So as far as a sequel, like a non-spiritual successor, an actual sequel, we have heard nothing but rumors lately. A sequel to Okami has been hinted at for years, but no one knows if it'll ever happen. Ikumi Nakamura and Hideki Kamiya went on Twitter in 2019 and said Okami will be back with no context. They just said Okami will be back.
Nice.
Apparently Nakamura was planning to go to Capcom and like demand that they can make a new Okami game. I don't really know all the drama, but it's been 5 years since the last update and there is no news of a new Okami at this time.
Well, maybe it's going to be like super open world awesomeness and it's just taking forever.
Yeah.
Like Tears of the Kingdom.
Hannah the Optimist here.
That's right.
Let me tell you about some sales numbers. Apparently sales were poor. More than 200,000 copies of Okami were sold in North America in 2006. By March 2007, the total sales of the PS2 version were near 270,000. Total sales for the game remained under 600,000 total units by March 2009 and was named the least commercially successful winner of a Game of the Year award in the 2010 Guinness World Record Gamers Edition.
That's like such a backhanded compliment. What the heck?
It is such a random compliment. Yeah, it's very funny. I have the HD sales as of December 2020, so these should be pretty up to date, except for like the last 4 years of digital sales, I suppose. But HD sales, the Switch had the most, 600K. We had PC, 536,000, PS3, 529, PS4, 445, Xbox One, 121. Comes out to about 2.2 million units. So pretty darn good for the HD version. Capcom is really milking this one, and I'm sure Clover Studios, who doesn't exist anymore, is getting absolutely nothing.
Oh, man. Ouch.
Talk to me about your overall impressions and thoughts, Hannah.
So, I really liked this game. I'm very glad you got it for me, that I actually got to try it, since it's been on like my We Want list for a very, very long time. I am definitely glad that I got the HD version rather than just the regular Wii version, because I feel like it was better in every single way. I liked it way better than I liked Bayonetta. I liked it, I would say, even better than Mario and Luigi. I think this is my favorite game that we've done like a video breakdown besides Tears of the Kingdom. If I had to rate it, I feel like it would be an 8.5 out of 10. It's very good.
Very generous, very solid. I think that the game kept me very entertained throughout the whole experience. I think that I don't know. Like, I wish I didn't have to cram it all into the last 2 weeks, because that's what I did, right? Like, I had done like a third of the game, and then I had the other 2/3 that I had to cram in for this podcast, and it wasn't bad by any means. The game was, like, the story, fantastic. I think it gets most of its points for story, and it gets a lot of points for the Celestial Brush. Combat kind of sucked if I were to take some points off. Just like the non-Celestial Brush combat, and the waggle controls, like the motion controls, kind of, I don't know, man, pretty sore right arm after playing through this game.
Right.
um, but I mean, it was awesome. I would totally recommend it to the listeners. I would totally say that this game was worth playing. How'd you feel about the length?
Okay, so we talked about it kind of earlier on, but like the pacing of the game was kind of weird. Like we thought it was ended, but like not really. You're only like a third of the way through. But I thought it was a really good length. I think 30-ish hours I think was the average of how much time people put in. I think that's respectable. I love long games. I know you don't. So I would even maybe say it's a little shorter than most action adventure titles like this, but I could just be
Well,
my opinion.
it was it didn't feel like it was too long, to tell you the truth. Um
Mm-hmm.
it is longer than I personally want to spend in a game, but that doesn't mean that like it felt long for the game. It
Yeah.
definitely, the pacing was weird. You were right about that. Once I got through the game, and it felt like three times where I thought the game was going to end. Like, I mean, I had knowledge. Like I would quickly like Google like the overarching like points. I guess like I looked up a walkthrough to see just how many different dungeons I had to get through, without actually
Mm-hmm.
reading the walkthrough. I just wanted to see, and that's why I knew the game wasn't ending anytime soon. And I had looked up how long to beat, and I knew that it was at least
Right.
30 hours. And um, yeah, long story short, I thought that the game was not too long. I thought 30-ish hours was pretty solid. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give it like an 8 as well. I think
Mm-hmm.
that like Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, probably the better game, but I enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
Okami more than I enjoyed Mario and Luigi, personally.
Yeah. I just like action adventure more than I like turn based kind of RPGs. So
Yeah.
that's a personal preference. I feel
I
like
thought,
for me, it took me a couple hours to kind of like really get into it.
yeah. What about the dungeons? We didn't really spend too much time talking about them. What did you think about the dungeons?
I liked them a lot. There wasn't any that stuck out in my mind as ones that it was like, oh god, it's so awful. Like a typical Zelda water dungeon. I didn't. There
Yeah.
wasn't any that stuck in my mind like that. The coolest things, I guess, my
So they were
favorite
all
one was good.
I'm sorry. Um the I never felt like they were long. They were all incredibly
No,
short dungeons.
yeah, they were. You could do it in less than an hour. Like I wouldn't even say like a half an hour.
Yeah, for the most part.
I think my favorite one was one that you mentioned earlier was going inside the Emperor. That one was a lot of fun. And then the other one that sticks out in my mind was where you had to get the ingredients for like this big soup for I
Oh
can't remember
yeah.
who it was for. But that one was a lot of fun. That one I think was the longest one. Took me the longest
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, that one was like multi floors.
Yeah, that one was fun.
I thought the dungeons were really solid. I thought that some of them were like I almost wanted them to be a little longer, which was weird for me. They were all very easy. The puzzles were cool, but they were once again very easy. That's probably
Mhm.
the biggest downfall I have for this game. Like everything about it was incredibly easy. Like it's literally this whole game was Zelda on easy mode. That's my takeaway from this game.
Yeah. I feel like it could have been a little bit more difficult, but also I feel like if it was super difficult, I don't know if I would have kept playing it. You know, you have to strike that balance.
Yeah. It was a great game. 8 out of 10 for me for sure. Final boss, do we want to talk about that right now?
Yeah. How deep you want to get into it without being like super spoilery.
I'm here all night.
Okay.
Yeah, skip this section if you don't want spoilers, I guess.
Yeah. So, what was your overall impression? Did you like it? Was it disappointing? What'd you think?
Once again, it wasn't difficult, but I guess like we can talk about the design, I guess.
Yeah.
I loved the whole like being stricken without your freaking powers. I thought that was super cool. You have to earn them back piece by piece. Um, but like as far as like what was going on half the time, I didn't really know. Like I didn't know what this giant orb was doing. Um,
Yeah.
but I just kept whacking him, and he just kept giving me my powers back. I mean, I don't know. It was pretty easy, but it was cool.
Yeah, so the whole boss is like like a mechanical sphere of some sort. I guess you could say like ancient technology sphere.
Yeah.
Um, and then I guess his name is Yami, which of course means darkness, gloom, or despair. So that makes sense. But the main guy, I guess, is like a weird looking fish fetus in like a glass bowl,
Yeah.
and he's got 5 total forms, I believe I read, and they all kind of change up what technique you should use, what brushstroke you should use. But throughout the whole thing, you're supposed to smash the shit out of this weird fetus in a fishbowl,
Yeah.
which is as weird as it sounds. I also liked that your powers were stripped away, but it was also like, oh god, man, I just spent 30 hours trying to get those powers.
Yeah.
And then the story element, which makes it really cool, is that this whole fight takes place during what's called the Day of Darkness or whatever, and it's where there's a solar eclipse. If you don't know what a solar eclipse is, it's when the moon passes in front of the sun and the sun is gone. So thematically, Amy loses her powers because the sun is gone.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I thought
And
that was really cool.
you had to earn back the solar power, or did you already have that?
I believe that's one of the first things you get back, but I could be wrong. I don't quite
Yeah,
remember the
I
order.
think it was the first one. And it was a very cliche, like, once they brought Isun in and they were like, yeah, Isun is out here, like, spreading the good word, like, like the whole, like, Santa Claus, if you believe, then he's gonna have power
Santa
to power
Claus.
his sleigh. Like, it was the same crap with Okami. um,
Uh,
but yeah, I'm sure there's some literature that supplements this section as
that
well.
the fact that you just compared it to Santa Claus is really funny because it's like such a big like religious thing over there in Japan. Like if you don't believe in the gods, like they disappear, like they no longer exist. But it's like no, it's Santa Claus. Mwah. Beautiful. But yeah, it's like oh, a god's only as strong as the people who believe in them. So that
Yeah.
was fun. Santa Claus. Damn.
um yeah, so they like show that Isun is out there passing out paintings and saying like, hey, this dude you've been hanging out with, or this wolf you've been hanging out with for 30 hours, yeah, that was a god. You didn't even know it.
And she needs your help. Here's these paintings that I drew because I'm an artist. His character goes full circle. It's a very nice closing kind of
I
end.
liked to talk more about dungeons a little bit. Like I really liked getting shrunken down and going into the first time you get shrunken down. I thought that was incredibly cool. Where you have to like dodge the like fully sized humans, they're like stepping on you. There's like giant insects you have to worry about all of a sudden. I thought that was
Yeah,
fun.
that was a lot of fun.
I really liked that we got to learn about Isun's like past a little bit and like where he came
Yeah.
from, and we got to go to the Punkli. I forgot what the town was called, but he ended up like having so much more importance than he did in the first 2/3 of the game out of nowhere,
Right.
which was cool.
Yeah, he was just comic relief, and then he actually has a story.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like I had one more, but I'm sure it'll come to me. I really liked the I personally, if there's a sunken ship in any game, I'm probably gonna enjoy it. I just think that's a really cool theme.
We got 2 sunken ships.
Oh yeah, the Ark.
Yep. I
Oh,
also appreciated the ancient technology. That's like one of the things that I
oh
really, really
yeah.
enjoy. And like time travel y kind of things. Like that's my jam. And I didn't think it would be in this.
When I sit here and I think about like how many dungeons were in the game, like yeah, they were short, but they were able to put a lot of different ones into the game in 30 hours, which I guess I can appreciate. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so instead of lengthy ones, they went more with quantity. So there were more dungeons.
It definitely felt like you were spending a lot more time in the open world in the first third of the game. And
Yep.
that might be because we didn't have mermaid coins back then, but maybe not. Like, I feel like you were pretty much where you needed to be at all times in the latter half.
Yeah, it felt like, I don't want to say more linear, but I never really had to like backtrack. I didn't feel like I had to backtrack in the latter half. It was just
Yeah,
it just kept going, kept pushing. Oh, this in this town unlocks this gate that's conveniently right next to the town, which unlocks the gate that's conveniently right next to this town.
yeah. There is one more dungeon on the tip of my tongue that I will hopefully remember here shortly. Let's keep moving though.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Uh,
oh, what's up?
I was gonna say, as far as the final boss, I want to say that my least favorite part was when he turned into a slot machine, and then you had to like line up all the things, and whatever it landed on, there was three little slots. Whatever it landed on was whatever attack you used, which was predictable, but you had to do it so many times. It's
I
like,
didn't have
ugh.
to do it that many times.
Well, I'm sure you used like the bombs or whatever, but I did not.
That's
It took me
true.
like eight times to kill that fish thing
That final
again.
boss was pretty lengthy, but like I guess overall it wasn't a super fun final boss. It obviously
Yeah.
wasn't challenging, but um yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. Like as far as the story goes, pretty neat. As far as like the actual playing of the final boss was nothing crazy.
Yeah. In my mind, it he was like this big bad like evil spirit thing, but no, it was just like a weird fetus fish in a bowl. I expected it to be like some grand evil scary looking monster, and it was
That's true.
a giant ball with a fetus in it.
Kind of a
But
letdown. Yami.
a little bit of a letdown, yeah, I gotta say. I still enjoyed it
Orochi.
though.
Orochi would have been better final boss.
Right? Like, what if, hold on, hear me out. So what if Orochi was at like such, he was so weak because he was defeated, blah blah blah, and he like just broke the seal, right? And you have to beat eight enemies in order for the mist, whatever, to go back to Orochi, and then at the end, after you beat those eight enemies, he's fully uh revived or whatever, and each element of an enemy is one of his heads. You know what I'm saying?
I dig it. Yeah.
Like, I feel like the pacing of that one would have been a lot better. It wouldn't have contributed, or it wouldn't have been inspired so much by Japanese mythology, which I also like, but maybe we
Yeah.
wouldn't have had to fight him three times.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I remember now. The freaking gate in the forest, like the Lost Woods,
Oh,
where we got so much lore and like so much like all of a sudden Shinrui, what is the freaking wolf's name?
Shiranui? Or Shiranui?
Shiranui was all of a sudden alive again, and it was like you were back 100 years. What a neat idea that was.
That was very cool. And then, not to spoil anything, but like you kind of go through and play the events that happen, but like it
Yeah.
doesn't happen like you think it did, which I think is funny.
Yeah, they killed it with that. I wanted to bring that up.
That was really fun. And then my favorite part of like the overworld or like exploring anything was Isun's town. It was just cool. You're shrunk down into it, and it's like these giant leaves. You're jumping from platform to platform, and for whatever reason, there were so many like chests and things to discover in such a small little
Yeah,
world. But I loved that. That was my favorite.
I liked it a lot. Although the NPCs were kind of lame in there. They just a lot of them said the same thing. Whoa, you're a big
Yeah,
wolf, or you're a tiny wolf. What are you doing in here?
yeah. You seem special. You're a special wolf. I have good feelings about you.
I had one glitch in the game. You had none.
I know. I didn't have any glitches. No.
I had this crazy one-off glitch where you remember like where Susanoo is like flying down the river on this giant log.
Yeah. Yes.
For whatever reason, I got the cutscene and then the game just like froze, and it was like I could hear the music playing, and it was like it was stuck in between the cutscene and like me actually playing. It was just like a weird random cutscene glitch, and I had to reset it, but I didn't lose too much time, maybe 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh man, that's annoying. No, I never experienced anything like that. The only thing I would say that was kind of awkward is sometimes when you're running, you'd get like stuck on a cliff, and even if you move the analog stick left or right, like you'd still be running into the cliff. That was the only thing, but you could get out of it by jumping.
Hmm.
So not a big deal at all.
You know what? I just remembered where I got my 3 game overs. I don't know why, but the first Waka fight, or possibly the only Waka fight, he freaking whooped my butt at the beginning of the game. 3 times. I remember getting pissed off because the save point was like several minutes back every time I had to fight this dude.
Oh man. No, I don't remember that one specifically.
Um, yeah,
He killed you 3 times?
I think that was all my game overs. Yeah, it was pissing me off.
Oh snap. That's annoying.
It was very early in the game, and we didn't have any. Well, I can't use that excuse. I was gonna say I didn't have any praise to rank up my health, but you literally didn't do it for half the game, so that's not a good excuse.
No, I I don't know where I was. I was playing in hard mode on accident. Even hard mode was easy.
Yeah. Talk to me about replayability.
So, after you beat this game, like most games like this, it opens up New Game Plus, which allows you, I looked it up, to keep all of your all of your weapons except for the final ones, most of your artifacts, all of your dojo techniques, all of your stray beads, money, praise, and demon fangs, and you get to play the game again. Woo woo!
Nice.
So, that's interesting. It's very much like RPGs. They all kind of do the same thing. I think, I don't know. I guess that would be useful so you could like go back and do all the quests and actually find all 100 of those stray beads. But like I don't think the enemies are any different. I don't think it's harder. I think that's it. You just keep all your items and stuff.
I mean, don't get us wrong. There is a ton of stuff to explore in this game if you're willing to. It just never felt like there was a good enough reward to go and explore everything.
Yeah, and then you also don't get to keep your brush techniques. So even if you're like back in the beginning and you see a cat statue that you never went back to, you can't do it. You have to get the cat thing power and then come back. So I feel like if they were to give you those techniques right from the beginning, I feel like I would definitely be able to 100% complete it without the arduous tasks of backtracking.
Yeah. Yeah, and having the that mist warp thing, that side mission where you can just warp anytime, that would probably be a big help.
That would have been nice, yeah, for sure.
Whenever you beat the game, you get some presents from Isun, is what they call it, and I went and checked that out. You get to watch like it's like the typical audio settings, not settings, but like you can go listen to the soundtrack now. You can go watch scenes from like the original Okami footage that they showed at like E3 2005, and there's a bunch of trailers in there. Nothing crazy. It's just like some bonus content. And then
That's pretty cool.
after the credits roll, if your game has credits, you get like some you get some costumes that you can use in New Game Plus. There are some cool ones. They really change how Amaterasu looks a lot. And you can look up online like how to get those. I think I got like 2 or 3 of them. Not that I'm going to be replaying this in the next 20 years, but they're there.
And they're cool.
Yeah, they're very cool. Yeah, you gonna be playing this game again anytime soon?
Probably not. Not that I did enjoy it. I did, but now that I've completed it, it's like, okay, let's go to the next game now. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not a big 100% completer.
Let's talk stats, because the game gave us stats, and I personally love stats. I think everyone does. How long was your playthrough?
My play time was 25 hours, 59
No, it
minutes,
was
and
freaking
5
not.
seconds. Yes, it is.
Shut the heck up.
Yep, I beat it. in less time than they said.
26 hours?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the average on how long to beat, I think, was 32 and a half or 33, perhaps. Or
Yep.
maybe it was lower than that. Do you know?
I think it was exactly at 30, but I could have been wrong. Maybe that
Let
was
me.
just the rounding I did in my head.
The average is 33 and a half. I did the game in 32 and a half.
That sounds about right for you. I thought it'd been a lot more.
You're the worst. Um,
6 hour difference.
that is
Nice.
so many hours, Anna. What the heck?
I'm the fastest gamer in the West, man. What can I say?
It clearly I did a few side missions that you didn't do, but
Yeah, that's true.
even like I remember texting you at like the 6 hour mark, and I was like, "Hey, where are you?" And you were like, "Oh, I'm like 3 hours in. I just finished collecting all the dogs or some crap." I'm like, "What?" So did I.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I was annoyed at that point, but I knew what it was gonna be like at that point. Um,
Oh, that's awesome.
so there's like a day and night cycle in the game. It tells you how many days passed. I had 48.
Whoa! I had 29.
Okay, that adds up, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Saves. I had 125 saves.
91.
Okay. 3 deaths. You had one.
Yep.
Enemies defeated.
247.
305. I got you on something at least.
Yeah, you did. Nice.
Money gained. I had 3.4 million yen.
Ooh, you also got more than me. I got 3.03 million.
Hmm. Only 11 demon fangs found.
Oh, I actually found 17.
Nice. And you didn't even have the golden whatever fury.
Nope.
And praise earned was 2970.
Wow, that's impressive. I got 1806.
Wow. I fed every
So,
animal. I circled every tree. Like, I was pretty big on the praise.
see, I didn't realize what praise was used for, obviously, until much later, so I was very much behind the curve.
It definitely felt like it was like some kind of like good and bad thing in like you know how games do like you have an evil meter or like a hero meter. It's what it
Yeah.
felt like at first when you were feeding animals and crap.
It's like, oh, you must be a good person if you're taking time to feed this mouse.
Final thoughts. Do you have anything written down here?
I have a couple likes and a couple dislikes, but you might have had a different experience than me. I did not really enjoy the map experience. I felt like it could have been a lot more detailed.
Oh yeah.
Um, I liked that you could toggle it on like while you were running. That was nice. I love that. But like I just felt like I was really confused in the first third of where I was going and what I was supposed to do. I also didn't like that sometimes they marked we were supposed to go on a map and sometimes they didn't. I
Yeah.
feel like it would have been a little helpful to have a little bit of direction, especially there in the beginning. It bothered me that I had to buy mermaid coins to fast travel, and like I couldn't skip that cutscene. I had to throw it in, wait for it to glow. Then I had to freaking
Swim to it.
swim to it. Yeah, that bothered me a lot. I also didn't like that every time you got an item, it gave you a spiel about it. I think Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom did this really well. It's like it gave you the spiel the first time you got an item, but then after the first time, it didn't give you the spiel again. It was just like, yeah, you picked that up. Yay. Good for you.
Yeah.
And then I think that's pretty much it. That was only my big dislikes or annoyances.
I don't think I wrote down any annoyances that I haven't talked about already. But you're absolutely right about the map. It was rough and like I'm gonna say 2 hours of this 32 and a half hours was like I was wandering around trying to figure out what the heck I'm supposed to do next, and it was only in the early game or like first third.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember getting very lost trying to figure out what I needed to do because I could access a certain spot, and it seemed like that's where I needed to be, but I really didn't have the power up that I needed, the celestial technique yet until
Yeah.
until I did this other thing, which they didn't really, you know, it was like you have multiple things that you could be doing right now. Good luck. Go try them all. Um, and that was annoying to me and cost me a couple hours. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't like that.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I did cheat a little bit because I did pull up a map, a more informative map on the internet, and I would refer to that if it was like, oh yeah, you got to go to Taco Valley or whatever it is. I was
Huh.
like, nah, okay, that's over here by this. So I did cheat a little bit. Maybe that's why I shaved off 6 hours. But yeah, I definitely did not feel that way in the latter half. It was very go here, go here, go here, which is right next to here, which is right next to here, which is right next to here kind of situation.
Yeah. I just keep thinking about like so many things we didn't talk about, like so many dungeons, and this was a very made a lot of traveling in this game. I was just thinking about the freaking bird place with the funny king that like didn't even talk. Um, and his daughter was lost. You remember that guy?
Yeah, I do.
There's so many different characters, so many spots in this game. Pretty huge game.
It was. It's very sizable. And it felt like the characters were all really interesting, even though we didn't mention a super ton of them. They're everywhere. They're interesting. They're fun. They have fun little dialogue, fun little interactions with you. They're quirky, memorable.
Did you have anything else for this?
Nope. That's it. I think I got
I
all the
wrote
main stuff.
I wrote that I really enjoyed the humor in the game.
Yeah.
Um, and I also wrote that the do you remember the water dragon? Um,
Yes.
Sleeping in its cave reminded me of the N64 Mario
Oh,
64 eels.
I had the same thought. It's
And then you just
scary.
had to jump into his mouth.
Yeah. Or when, I don't know if you experienced this, but when you're riding around on the little walrus guy or seal or whatever he would like randomly come up behind you and like chase you.
Oh yeah.
Scary. And the music would get all tense and he's like coming at you. No thanks.
I'm gonna say overall I had like great impressions of this game. I felt really good finishing it. Just like overall pleasant experience. Very happy with Okami. Would recommend.
Yes, I agree. Would absolutely recommend, especially if you like old school Zelda with the dungeons, action adventure kind of stuff. It's definitely for you.
I'm gonna say if you want, I would say the best way to play is probably Switch. I
Yep.
can't say that I've played them all, but it has the best of both worlds in the sense that you have motion controls if you want them, and it's apparently beautiful in HD. So go play it on Switch.
I agree. That's definitely the where I would play it, where I'd recommend.
And touch controls if you're playing handheld apparently. So that's just awesome. You have the best of all the worlds.
You got, yeah, three worlds that collide.
Um yeah, that's it. That's it for Okami. We did it.
And guess what? It's like 3 hours.
And we're not done. Let's talk about some quick news been buying, been playing, and we'll wrap this up here.
All right.
I have only 2 points of news. I feel like it's been very dry lately.
I have 1 point of news, so try.
All right, I'll go first. Did you hear about Mario Maker 1?
Ooh, yeah, I did, but enlighten us.
The community got together and was like, hey, we're going to beat all the Super Mario Maker 1 levels on Wii U before the server shuts down at the end of the month being March. And they did it. And people were stuck with almost 300,000 attempts on this last level across the
Whoa.
entire world. Yeah, I was watching this Twitch streamer play it. Turns out the reason it was so impossible is because it was kind of like the person who made it used a tool assisted tool, like they used a computer to beat the final level and
Oh.
upload it. So it was a tool assisted speed run, possible only level, and yeah. So at that point they said, hey, we did it.
Oh, well, that feels like cheating.
Yeah, I mean they beat all the real levels, and that one was impossible. Definitely cheating for the uploader if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why would
absolutely.
you do that? Boo.
You want to go?
Yeah, I'll read my one piece of news. It might even be your piece of news, but
Might be.
Dr. Mario, Mario Tennis, and Mario Golf are now all available on Nintendo Switch Online.
And because those are all games with multiple platforms, they are on Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Color, respectively.
Oh, very nice. Did I steal your news?
Yeah.
Yay! Sweet.
Okay. You don't have to rush through this or anything. Like, I don't know. We do 3-hour podcasts all the time. But what have you been buying? What games have you acquired this past month?
Absolutely nothing.
Whoa.
Not a darn thing. Don't woe me. This is normal. What are you
Digital
talking about?
even? Nothing?
No. Oh, okay. That's a lie. That's a fat
Here we
lie.
go.
I think I bought this. I bought this last month. I think, but Nintendo did their partner showcase, and I bought Suika, which is the watermelon,
Oh, yeah.
the game where you have to try to stack the fruit and get the watermelon. Me and my friend played it a couple months ago, and it was fantastic. We were like, oh man, I wish there was like a multiplayer. Well, they added multiplayer in
Yeah.
like an attack mode, so I bought that. I haven't played it yet, but I did buy that. So I'm a big fat liar.
I saw that on the showcase and I was like, you know what? That looks fun. And it's like $3 or something. I was in. I'm intrigued.
The best part is I bought it with my gold coins that I had from all my purchases from the
Oh,
3DS,
yeah.
so it was free.
Yeah,
It
those
was good
gold
stuff.
coins are pretty tiny in comparison to, I don't know how much money you spend, but they do add up
They do, and it
occasionally.
was awesome.
Okay, you're going to have to
That's it.
listen to my pickups because it is my birth month and it is also a month where I sold my first car and had some extra money. So I got some stuff, nothing too crazy.
Get ready for a 4-hour podcast, y'all.
I don't think I talked about. Did I tell you the? Okay, I don't know. I bought Disney Sports Basketball, and I think it was this month or the very end of February. It was $1,100. That was the big one
Oh,
for the GameCube
holy
set.
smokes. That is crazy. You are crazy.
I am crazy.
Oh my god.
Wouldn't recommend.
Right. It's a sickness. Avoid it.
Now let me tell you about all the trash I bought. So I got
Yay.
Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. I love buying Marvel games. Even if they're movie tie-ins, it brings me a lot of joy. So I got this one on the Wii, but comes with a freaking movie ticket. It is a variant with the movie ticket, Hannah.
Ooh. You think they'll still honor it?
I do. I got Brain Age 2 on the DS. Did you ever play Brain Age or Big Brain Academy?
I sure did.
Which one? Both?
I think it was Brain Age. I didn't have a DS growing up, so I just played it with somebody else. But I
Oh,
remember it's
okay.
like math and reading and blah 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 all that stuff. I think it was Brain Age.
Yeah, Brain Age 2 and Brain Age 1 like $6 shipped on eBay if anyone out there is like, "Oh, I should buy that." I didn't have the second one and I just wanted it and I bought it. So that's how that got to my house.
Very nice. Very
um
nice.
I got this little PS4 lot on eBay for like dirt cheap. It was with three AAA titles, Neo and Neo 2. I think those are Team Ninja games that are like really beloved. Never played them.
Never
And
heard of them.
then also in the lot was a Lord of the Rings game, Middle Earth: Shadow of War. I've always thought this one looked fun, um, but I really don't know much about it. But I want to play
Hmm.
that for sure. Sticking to the making myself smarter games, I got Big Brain Academy Wii degree.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I didn't have Brain Age as a kid. I was a big Brain Academy guy. Um,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed that game a lot. But when I was out shopping, just like after it was like a Sunday afternoon, and I was just like stopping at the local Game Over video game store, and I was like, yeah, I'll go look for something like hefty that I can spend money on for my birthday gift to myself. I guess Disney Sports Basketball wasn't enough. Um,
Right.
but I didn't find anything hefty. Honestly, the selection kind of sucked, and I bought Big Brain
No.
Academy Wii degree. I bought Forza Motorsport and like some Tiger Woods trash for the GameCube set. Um, so
Awesome.
those were all cheap. And then we get into the birthday gifts. So my boy Tyler got me Kid Chameleon on Genesis. This is a
Ooh.
very cool platformer that is very, very long. Because normally, if there's like a platformer on an old console like that, you're like, oh yeah, it's going to take me an hour, hour and a half to beat it because there's no continues. Well, this game is incredibly long and it takes like 3+ hours to beat. No saving, just like you got to sit down on a Saturday morning and hammer this out because it is a long game. But it's very good.
Dang. Are you gonna stream it?
I actually did stream it a long time ago because I had it digitally. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if I can commit to beating this one. This is a lengthy, difficult game.
Hmm.
That would be a long stream.
I'm down.
He also got me the Gradius collection. For those of you that don't know, Gradius is a shmup from Konami that has existed for like 30, 40 years. This one is on PSP, comes with 5 Gradius games. Started playing that the other night. It's like the perfect bedtime game, and I enjoyed it a lot. Thank you, Tyler, for the birthday gifts.
Aw.
My pal Ernie got me Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, and as I was taking these notes, I think you are on record as being a hater of the blue people. Is that correct?
I hate the blue people. I
Yeah.
think it's stupid. And the real Avatar is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I like the blue people a lot, and I'm excited to play this game. Came out in December, and I heard like 2 people talk about it in the whole world. So we'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, AAA Ubisoft title. I got that from my pal Ernie, and then Hannah got me some freaking games for my freaking birthday.
Ooh.
I got Moving Out
Ooh.
2. That was not from you. That was from my girlfriend. My bad. I got Moving Out 2 now, so that's a win. I'm
Ooh,
excited to play
yeah.
that.
That one's a great one.
Hannah got me Moon on the Nintendo Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
this is a PlayStation game that only released in Japan, and Limited Run brought it physically to the Switch and possibly other consoles. And it's like this RPG with no battling. It's I'm like talking to you, but you already know all this, but I'm talking to the audience at the same time. This
Yeah.
game looks incredibly cool. What do you know about it?
I know what I wrote on that card, which I forgot, but I know it's described as like an anti RPG, which I was like, that seems like something you would enjoy.
That's funny. I thought you bought it because you know I love things that are like region locked, but no, you're absolutely right. I love RPGs, but not really. I don't know. I'm still kind of figuring out my way with
Mm-hmm.
RPGs.
It just anti RPG just was like, yeah, that's good stuff. Also, it looks like it's from, I don't want to say this SNES era because obviously it's from the PlayStation 1 era, but it's old, it's retro. I know you like that stuff, and I know you probably wouldn't buy it for yourself, so I bought it for you.
Good freaking choice. I wish if this were a video podcast, I'd show off this beautiful Rayman figure that you bought for me from
Mm-hmm.
what is it? U2's? Is that the company?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the new Funko, but like they look better.
Yeah, this thing is gorgeous. It comes with its own like protective case, which is also part of the like design of it. This thing is super cool and I'm very very happy to have it. You are amazing.
Well, it's like it feels like, and I wrote this on your card, that anytime Rayman gets any kind of like shine or any kind of attention, it's like it feels like a significant point in history, you know?
Yeah.
It's like how could I not? And it came out around your birthday. It was like fate. It was crazy.
Heck yeah. Thank you.
You're very
Not
welcome.
to mention, you're always great at picking out shirts. So I got this sick Sonic shirt that I will be wearing on stream tomorrow night.
That's what I'm talking about. I love shirts. That's my main wardrobe. So I feel like I'm really good at picking out shirts.
Awesome. Um Have you been playing anything?
Kind of yes and no. So a lot of my time has been donated, has been dominated by Okami. But I also was teaching my little cousin, he's 10, how to play Splatoon 2. That was
Oh,
a nightmare. No, it's fun. It's just watching somebody else play Splatoon 2 makes me like motion sick because he's like looking all around and it's very sporadic. So that was kind of fun. I also played a little bit of Super Mario 64 because I was feeling nostalgic.
nice.
And I really suck at playing it on the Switch controller. Like, I feel like that game is so perfectly mapped to the Nintendo 64 controller that I just felt really clumsy on the Joy-Cons,
Oh,
which
interesting.
was unfortunate.
I bet you
And
have the N64 Switch Online controller. It's probably boxed up
I
though.
do. It is boxed up. I'm really trying not to open up all these boxes
Yeah.
because I know once I start, I won't stop. And then, let's see, the last thing I did, which was so stupid, but I was like, I just finished Okami, and I was like, man, I want like a super in-depth RPG, something Xenoblade Chronicles style. And so what did I do? I started
RuneScape.
Xenoblade Chronicles 3, no, over it again, almost, in New Game Plus.
Nice.
So, I'm a level 96 against level 1 enemies. It's awesome.
Guilty
I don't know why
pleasure
I
right
did that.
there.
So fun. And that's it.
I actually have delayed myself with like Okami. I literally finished yesterday, and it's because I started playing other stuff, and I was like, oh, I got plenty of time. Um, yeah, it was my birth month, like I said. It's just been a very busy month. I've made no new videos for the channel. I'm about to cram them all into the last week here. Um, but yeah, it's been a great month. But what I did play instead of Okami for a few hours is Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2. And this is
Ooh.
I played the first one years ago, but I got the second one on sale digitally, and I guess for those of you that don't know, it's made by the people who made like Castlevania,
Mm-hmm.
between a certain period of Castlevania history. They left Konami and they went to go make their own studio. It's called Inti Creates, and they've made 3 Bloodstained games. This is the second one I've played. Still haven't played Ritual of the Moon, but yeah, this game's awesome. They killed it. I'm enjoying it, and I'm excited to get back to it now that Okami's done.
No, we talked about it for 4 hours.
Yeah. No, I'm not even mad. This was a great episode. I loved talking about this with you. I was really looking forward to chatting with someone who had played the game. I had a great time.
I agree. I'm very glad I got to play it.
And if you have made it 3+ hours through this episode, we want to say thank you. You're awesome.
And definitely reach out if you think that we should play a certain game. Because I think that would be fun. Get audience suggestions.
Always. We love suggestions. We have a Discord channel called the Unlockable Podcast. We have comments on YouTube, and we have DMs on Instagram, all of which you can reach out to us. Please do. Or you can even email birddoggaming@gmail.com if you really wanted to.
Right. Or send me a snail mail letter to my P.O. box.
Where can the people Instagram DM you, Hannah?
Game Grill Advance SP.
I am Bird Dog Gaming on all social media. Please reach out. Please join the Discord, and we will see you in April for an episode that is undecided.
Nice. See ya.